Ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas and welcome back to Umineko Chapter 7. We are currently finished our review of the scenario Rosa understands Beatrice from, and I feel like we're going to be digging into new content, at least for this Will character, and the reader, of course, by extension. Starting now. This is going to be fun, isn't it? So Will returned to the chapel by himself. I mean, I guess he's gone through what Rosa said and was like, yeah, I knew all of that, but hey, a refresher is nice, and we got a little bit of a follow-up. We did find out that, she went and talked to Genji afterwards, and he managed that, so maybe Will's gonna go talk to Genji. Although he did say he wanted to talk to Kinzo instead. Kinzo first instead. The cold air and the monotonous sound of the rain were comforting. So, how's the game going? And he'd come here for a little peace and quiet, of course. As soon as he let out a sigh of relief, that voice rang out. That's my game. That's my line. It was as though she'd been sitting there all along. Bernkastel appeared on top of the altar once more. Beatrice's altar must have been extremely comfortable. Battler annoyed me over and over with his incompetence. It was stated in red. You just have to, at that point, you have to acknowledge he's probably going to be incompetent. You're quite incompetent compared to him. It's much more relaxing to watch you work. Unlike Ushiromiya Battler's games, I have nothing standing in my way. It's easy. That sort of game has already ended. Tales can only be enjoyed twice. First, you love them. And then you tear at their guts. That's right, I'm back. So I'm a butcher now. So? Have you figured out who killed Beatrice? Rosa's confession is something I already knew from a previous fragment. There is no brand new information. I thought the Genji stuff was new. Anyway, we're still at square one. Unless Ushiromiya Kinzo tells us what really happened, we won't get any further than this. Don't tell me. Arguing with Kinzo and persuading him to spill the beans is, of course, supposed to be part of this game. That'd be fatally boring. Kinzo refuses to speak of the truth and is himself the king protected by his castle. But that wouldn't be any fun to have that stand in the way of your game. I won't torture. It's not my style. Oh, I know. As the game master, I'll grant you power. So you can get the truth from Kinzo, of course. Still wearing shoes, Bernkastel stepped into the casket, picked up one of the flowers that had been set as offerings, and blew hard as though scattering fluff from a dandelion. Then a single petal broke off and drifted down towards Will. No longer gold, but with the shine of a transparent crystal. Detective's authority? Oh, that pathetic ability? No. This is an invitation to the grandstands. Oh, bigger and better than the detective authority? Theater-going authority. That's supposed to be forbidden without authorization from the Senate. I'm the one giving it on my game board. Who's gonna stop me? Though the crystal flower petal danced in the wind, it wouldn't fly away until Will accepted it. He remembered how useless it was to argue with witches and snatched it up. I am the Senate. When he did, the petal flashed brightly for an instant, melted into Will's palm, and disappeared. Congratulations. Bernkastel has become the Senate of her own game. And given you theater-going authority, which does something, I'm sure. Entertain me if you can. And try to enjoy yourself. You must be interested in seeing what the guts of Beatrice's game board look like, right? Not really. He didn't even know who Beatrice was. Why would he care? After Will's rude answer, Bernkastel vanished into thin air, leaving behind an obnoxious laugh. After clicking his tongue, Will turned around unhappily. When he did, it felt as though his gaze had crossed that of a shadow standing right in front of him near the door that led outside. Who's there? Pardon me? I heard a voice, so I wondered who it was. Ah, Shannon. So you're running the reception desk this time? Yes. I've been taking turns with Canon-kun to run the reception desk. Okay. Okay. And Canon? A short while ago, he was ordered by, Leon-sama to take a break, so he's resting now. You don't know Leon either? Oh, that's not...
後宮リオンは銀の指輪を許された次期当主だ。
Ushiromia Leon's successor, the one who wears the silver ring.
10年を務めたお前が名前を言いよどむのはおかしい。
Why are you stumbling over that name when you worked here for 10 years? That's a very good question. Oh, good evening.
それは
That's...
安心しな。
Don't worry.
リオンに面識がねえのは俺もだ。
I don't recognize Leon either.
次期当主はクラウスのはず。
Kraus is supposed to be the
子
successor.
供もジェシカだけのはずだ。
Jessica's supposed to be his only
リオ
child.
ンなんてやつが後宮家にいたかけらなんて一つもなかったはず。
There hasn't been any fragment with anyone named Leon in the Ushiromia family. When she realized Will didn't recognize Leon either, Shannon relaxed. Apparently she's a bit relieved to find she wasn't going crazy by herself. However, her expression quickly grew uncertain once more.
ここはどこなんでしょう。
Where is this place?
後宮家の礼拝堂と思います。
I think it's the Ushiromia family
で
chapel.
もどことなく雰囲気が違います。
Something feels different about it.
それにリオン様という方がおられた
Also,
なんて
I never knew that someone named Leon
全
Sama
然知りませんでした。
Yeah, a bit weird, isn't it? Go ahead. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Having like a couple characters introduced and no one knows who they are.
なのに旦那様も奥様も親方様もお嬢様も親類の皆様も
And yet,
当たり
Madam
前のようにお話をされています。
Kraus-sama, the master, milady, all the relatives talk as though it's perfectly natural.
何が何だか私
I just don't understand what's happening. I mean, Saber's been isekai'd again. I understand this.
リオンはベルンカステルが置いた駒だ。
Leon is a piece placed by Bernkastel.
奴を置くためにさらに大きな猫箱に変えたとも言っていた。
She also said, in order to place that piece, she switched over to a larger cat box.
それだけでなく、どうもここはいくつかのかけらが継ぎはぎして作られた
On top
ま
of
とも
that,
じゃ
it
ない世
seems
界だし、
this world isn't a proper world, but one made out of several different fragments sewn together. It's as though this is a special stage set up specifically for this game. I'm sure she's nodding at my thoughts right now, laughing and chomping down popcorn. So that's what the two teeth in Berncastell's mouth are for.
この世界のお前は何年ここに勤めている？
How long have you worked here in this world?
10年です。
10 years. 10 years. I see. It really is a special stage. After all, right when I entered the chapel, I spotted Kinzo, and since Shannon has been working here 10 years, this world takes place in 1986, the stage of Beato's game. In that case, Kinzo shouldn't exist. He was definitely here a few minutes ago, though. Berncastel promised all the information needed for reasoning was gathered here. She must have really packed it together to fit everything in, so I see. It really is a special stage. Okay.
お前はそれだけの長い間、
You served the Ashiramiya family for many
後ろ
years.
宮家に仕えてた。なら、ベアトリーチェのことをどれだけ知っている？
How much do you know about Beatrice? Oh boy, he's gonna be asking this to everyone, right?
親方様が深く愛された方。
I know the master loved her deeply, but other than that,
それだけか？
is that all?
あ
And,
とその、ロッケン島の夜の主と言われていて。
They say that she's the master of Rokkenjima's night?
その、
And,
そうだ。
right.
夜な夜な屋敷を徘徊すると囁かれる亡霊の名もまたベア
The
トリ
name of the
ーチェ。
ghost, rumored to wander the mansion night after night, is also Beatrice. Yep. That brings the number of Beatrices to 3. The first is the Beatrice from more than 30 years ago, said to have given Kinzo the gold. The second is the Beatrice from 20 years ago who met Rosa. And the third is the Beatrice of the ghost stories, who is rumored to be the master of the night on Rokkenjima.
フルドエリカの推理は正しいだろ
Fruto Erica's reasoning was probably
う。も
correct.
ともとロッケン島に存在した悪霊の伝説。
It probably started out as a legend of the evil spirits on
そ
Rokkenjima.
こに金蔵のオカルト趣味と謎の女。ベアトリーチェの名前や
Yes,
肖像。
yes. Later on, elements such as Kinzo's occult hobbies, the name and the portrait of the mysterious woman
自
Beatrice,
分が次第に加味されていき、黄金の魔女伝説に統合された。
and the epitaph all got mixed in. It was all integrated into the legend of the Golden Witch.
そして夜の闇が魔女という人格を
And
得
then,
た。
the darkness of the night gained the personality of a witch.
それが3人目のベアトリ
It's
ー
the
チェ。
third Beatrice.
それが連続殺人犯のベールとな
This
る。
became the veil for the serial murders.
えっと、
Apparently, she didn't understand a word of Will's sudden monologue. Shannon tried to follow along, but she seemed to be having difficulty.
無理に理解するな。
Oh, don't waste your time trying to
頭
understand
痛
it.
になら。
You'll get a headache.
申し訳ございません。
Sorry. My apologies.
カノンもリオンのことを知らないのか？
Kanon doesn't know Leon either, right?
はい、
Yeah.
カノン君も私と同じでした。
Kanon-kun was the same as me. Shannon and Canon. Is it?
カノンも呼んで二人に話が聞きたい。
Call Canon over here. I want to talk to the pair of you about something. When Will said these words, Shannon's face went blank and her eyes went wide.
申し訳ございません。
My
受
apologies.
付を開けることは許されておりませんので、私には呼びに行くことができません。
We aren't allowed to leave the reception desk unmanned, so I can't leave to go get him.
なら誰か代わりを呼んできて受付を変わらせる。
Find a replacement. Have them take over the reception desk until you
あ
get
んた
back.
とカノン
You, me,
と
Canon.
俺。リオンを知らない3人で
We, the three people who don't know Lion, Leon, sorry, need to talk.
受付は一人でいいと仰せつかっております。
We've been told one person is enough to run the reception desk.
2人いちゃいけねえとは言われてねえはずだ。
But no one told you there was anything wrong with two people manning it, right? Right?
本日は人手が足りませんので、受付に二人も不要と仰せです。
We're low on helpers today. We were told having two people at the desk would be unnecessary.
誰がそう命じた？
Who gave you that
金
order?
蔵か？
Kinzo?
クラウスか？
Kraus?
それともリオンか？
Was it Leon?
確認する。
I'll check with them.
私の命令権者です。
It was the one who orders me.
私は命令に逆らえません。
I cannot disobey orders.
その命令権者は誰だ？
Who is this person?
そいつに交渉する。
I'll negotiate with them.
交渉などできません。
You cannot negotiate.
私たちの命令権者です。
It is the one who orders us.
ここへカノンを呼べ。
Call Cannon over
俺
here.
は拷問も感激も綺麗だ。
I hate theater going just as much as I hate torture. Slowly Will pulled his right hand out of his pocket. When he slowly opened his fist, a small bright glow emanated from it. The flower petal given to him by Berncastel became a glowing, sparkling mark on his hand. He held the hand out towards Shannon and slowly approached her.
カノンを呼べ。
Call Cannon.
お前たちに確かめたいことがあ
I
る。
want to check something with you two.
お呼びできません。
I can.
それでもなお、
I
それ
cannot
を
call
ご希
him.
望ですか？
You still want me to? The spacing's quite uneven in this text.
呼ばねえなら、お前を感激する。
If you don't call him, I'm gonna use my authority. This is getting interesting. I wonder what's going on here. Is this just an artifact of the splicing of fragments? Or is this something else? Something new, perhaps? Alright, authority time?
どうしてもとおっしゃるのでしたら、
In
特別にお呼びすることもできますが、
Alright, cat, call him. Especially for you, but... What? There was some kind of incomprehensible tension between the two. Will stood there, his left hand still in his pocket, his right palm glowing and stretched out towards her. Shannon just stood there, her hand still folded politely in front of her. Her posture beautiful. It felt oddly beautiful, as though the windswept drops of rain were sparkling and cracking in midair.
カノン君を呼んでまいりますが、
What? Go non kun.
よろしいですか？
You absolutely certain? This is curious. Will's expression remained unchanged the whole time. Shannon's face was still kind and gentle, yet the tension was as icy as a frozen lake. Beginners in chess will know sometimes move their king into check without noticing it. One might mercilessly capture the king in this situation, but high-level players are supposed to calmly tell their opponent about their mistake. If you take one more step, you'll get captured. This was similar to that. I see. So after all...
もう分かった。
I get it.
十分だ。
That's enough.
二人で交代で受付を頼む。
You guys can take it in turns to run the reception desk. Slowly, Will lowered his hand.
ご理解いただけまして助かります。
Thank you for understanding. The glow slowly vanished from Will's palm. The completely incomprehensible tension melted away like sugar cubes in water. However, nothing changed since the beginning. Will's expression and Shannon's expression were the same as they'd always been.
おや、お帰りですか？
Oh, are you leaving? Footsteps approached them. It was Leon.
立ち話をしていただけだ。
No, just having a casual conversation.
こいつに聞きたかったこと
I
があ
want
っ
to
た。
ask her something.
それは何でしょう？
What could that be?
そしてそれは得られましたか？
Did you find what you were looking for?
ああ、
Yeah.
お役に立てて光栄です。
Honored to have been of service.
それは残念。
Damn shame.
傘をお探しのようでしたら、すぐにでもご用意させましたのに。
If you were looking for an umbrella, I could have gotten you one right away.
金蔵に話はついたのか？
Did you convince Kinzo?
珍しい客人が挨拶をしたがっていると伝えました。
I told him a rare guest wanted to
お
greet
会い
him.
するそうです。
He says he'll meet with you.
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたいとは伝えたのか？
Did you tell him I wanted to ask about Beatrice?
それはあなたの仕事でしょ？
Well, isn't that your job? With a mischievous look, Leon turned away, and Will scratched his head and shrugging, looking annoyed.
まあいいさ。
Ah,
こ
well.
いつを試すだけの話だ。
Guess I'll get a chance to try this out at least. Will opened his right hand and showed it to Leon. It was just a hand without anything remotely remarkable about it. Leon's head tilted to the side in bafflement at this strange gesture.
ご苦労様です。
Good work.
君の名前は確か。
Wait, your name was
シャノンです。
Shannon.
そうだった。シャ
Leon?
ノンでしたね。
That's right, Shannon. Leon, Shannon has been working for you for 10 years. How the fuck do you not know her name? Like it's the first time you've met her or something.
引き続き受付をよろしく頼みます。
That's right, Shannon. Please take over at the reception
肩を
desk.
冷やさないように。
Make sure you keep warm.
ありがとうございます、リオン様。
Thank you very much, Leon-sama. Shannon bowed deeply in response to Leon's kind words. There wasn't even a hint of tension in her manner.
参りましょう、ウィル。
Let's go,
せ
Will.
っかく時間をいただけたのです。
You don't want to miss this chance.
当主様の機嫌は秋の空より変わりやすいですよ。
I see, Saber. You say the head's mood changes quicker than the autumn sky.
いっ
Alright,
てらっしゃいませ。
good luck.
行くか。
Here we go. Leon didn't know Cannon's name either. Yep. Like, these people have been around forever. How do you not know them? Must be a very strange shard he comes from, or it's almost like he's just a piece of Burncastell's. There to assist you. Or hinder you in some strange way.
ウィラードさんをお連れしました。
I brought Willard-san. Kinzo and Genji could be seen in the VIP room. Kinzo was sitting back in a chair, his eyes closed as though in a troubled sleep.
親方様、
Master.
お客様がお見えになりました。
The guest has come to see you.
ん
Kinzo slowly opened his eyes. The eyes were red from crying, and they regained their focus slowly, falling on Will.
私が後宮金蔵である。
I am Ushiromiya Kinzo.
ウィル、
Bill?
ウィラードだ。
I'm
お
Willard.
悔やみ申し上げる。
Allow me to express my condolences.
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に訪ねてくると
So
は。
you came to attend Beatrice's
そ
funeral.
なたは何者なのか。
Just who are you?
誰でもない。誰とも関係ない。
No one. I have no connections with anyone.
深く考えるな。
Don't think too deeply
頭
about it.
痛になら。
You'll get a headache.
もう少し言葉遣いにご注意をお願いいたします。
I'd like to ask you to choose your words a little more carefully.
ふん、おかしな客人
What a
だ。
strange
そ
guess.
れで、
So,
この私に何用か。
what business do you have with me?
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたい。
I want to ask about Beatrice.
何
What? Kinzo's gaze grew sharp. Leon felt a bit lightheaded and wondered why this guy had to be so direct.
聞いてどうする
Why do you ask? You're no one, aren't you?
ベアトリーチェのことを知ってどうするといい
Why do you want to know about
何
Beatrice?
の意味があるというのか
What is your purpose?
俺が誰でもないからこそ、
Because
お
I'm
前
no
の
one.
物語を公正に聞き、残すことができる。
I can listen to your tale impartially and record it.
お前はじきにこの世を去るだろ
You'll probably leave this world before
う。
too
そ
long.
の時、ベアトリーチェのことを何も語らずに死んだなら、
If you die without telling anyone anything about
お前
Beatrice,
の子供たちは、彼らが好き勝手に考えた物語で、ベアトリーチェを
your
就職し、
children will adorn
記録に残
Beatrice
すだろ
with
う
whatever tale they please, writing that into their memories.
面白い若造だ。
You entertain me, boy. Alright, Kinzo at least likes that
お
answer.
前は遺言屋を気取ろうというわけか。
You plan on writing my will for me?
だが、それは余計なお世話というものよ。
But that's none of your business.
ベアトリーチェは私だけのベアトリーチェだ。
Beatrice is mine alone. Is she
誰
now?
が何を語ろうと
No
も、
matter what other people say.
私とあれの物語は誰にも怪我せぬ。何
What
の
they
意
say
味
is of
も
no
持たん。
consequence.
クラウスたちがどう曲解しようとも痛くも痒くもないわ。ベアトリー
Probably should have seen that one coming when he said Beatrice. No matter how Kraus and the others misconstrue it, it'll be neither painful nor vexing to me. How do I interpret there being only 16 people on the original game boards, minus these OCs, if Kinzo is dead? Well, presumably canon isn't real. That seems to be what they're implying. That Canon or Shannon are not separate people. Which is a bit unusual. So someone's puppeting someone or something. It's not entirely clear what's going on. Just have to find out. They'll probably do some other crazy reveal soon enough.
Willard 様、
Willard-sama.
親方様は遺言を好まれません。
The master is not fond of wills.
生きているうちより何事かを投げ出すお方ではございません。
He's not the sort of man who would abandon a task so it might be performed after his life ends.
だろうな。
Probably true.
らしからぬこととは思っていた。
I thought it sounded a bit unlike you.
誠意ある限りあがいてこそ人間であろうが。
The ability to struggle on as long as we have life is what makes us
それ
human.
を早々に諦め遺言に残そうという浅ましさなど少子千万。
You think I would give up as soon as and leave a will behind a will? Laughably absurd.
確かにその方がお前らしい。
Yes, that does sound a bit more like you.
死ぬかもしれないから過去語りを記せと言い出すのは
It's not your style
確
to
か
ask
にお前
someone
の柄
to
じゃね
write about the past just because you think your death is drawing near.
当主様がベアトリーチェ様のことを深く深く愛しておられたことは存じ上げております。
You know how deeply you love Beatrice.
私たちにとって当主様は最大の尊敬の対象であるとともに生きるすべての模範です。
You are the model most worthy of respect that any of us know and an example for us to follow in every aspect of our
どう
lives.
か迷える私たちのために
Please guide our wandering souls and tell us just how much you loved her
いか
grandfather.
にしておじい様が彼女を愛し抜いたか愛
How
を
you
生
were
き
able
抜いた
to
か
live through everything you faced because of her
そ
love.
の愛の強さを私たちにお導きくださるようお願いすること
I
は
only
で
ask
き
for you
な
to
いでしょ
guide
う
us
か
by showing us that love's strength.
なかなか達者だ。
You're pretty good at this.
あなたが言葉を選ばないからです
It's your fault for being so tactless. He is an inquisitor,
若
though.
造、お前はベアトリーチェの何を知っているというの
What do you know of Beatrice?
真に無知なる者は関心さえ持たぬ。
A truly ignorant person wouldn't be interested in learning
ベ
more.
アトリーチェの名を知っている時点で無知なる者ではなく縁なき者でもない。
The mere fact that you know Beatrice's name shows you're neither ignorant nor unconnected.
道理だな。
Good
俺が
point.
知っているベアトリーチェは
The Beatrice I know of. Ooh, that's something the anime messed up. They had both Canon and Shannon show up in the same scene with Battler in it, which breaks the logic. Therefore, the anime does not exist. It has been logic errored. I see. It's okay. It was someone dressing up as Canon or some shit. Gotta solve your logic error. Oh wait, no one would mistake them for another character. That's a tough one. they changed their clothes really quickly when Battler wasn't looking. Easy. Good point. The Beatrice I know
お
of.
前がかつてロッケン島に屋敷を設ける以前に出会った最愛の女だ。
They're the woman you love, the one you met before the mansion on Rokkenjima was even
しかし
built.
おそらくは死別して娘を残した。
However, she probably departed from this world, leaving behind a daughter.
それがクワドリアンで育てられていた
And
娘
that's the
だ。
girl who was raised in Kuadorian.
ほう
Oh?
ウィラード様
Willard, someone.
当ロッケン島にはクワドリアンなる建物は存在いたしません。
There is no building known as Kuadorian on Rokkenjima.
そのクワドリアンという名前、
That name, Kuadorian.
さっきローザおばさんと話した時にも口にしていました。
You mentioned it when we were talking with Aunt Rosa
そ
too.
れは一体何なんですか？
What in the world does it mean?
察しはついてるはずだ。
You should have an idea
愛
by
人
now.
の娘を囲うロッケン島の森の奥深くにある隠し屋敷の名だ。
It's the name of the hidden mansion deep in the forest where his mistress's daughter lived.
面白い
Interesting.
クワドリアンの名を知ろうとはな
You actually do know the name of Kuadorian.
続けよお前に
Continue.
興味が出たぞ
You have sparked my interest. Kinzo shrugged and grinned.
クワドリアンにいたのはベアトリーチェの娘だろう。
The one living in Kuadorian was probably Beatrice's daughter.
少なくともお前は
It
そう
seems
は思っていなかった。
you, at least, didn't think of her that way.
お
Oh?
うならば何だと思っていた
How
と
did
いう
I? How did I think of her?
後ろ宮ローザはクワドリアンにて多少の身の上話を交わしている。
When Ushirmia Rosa went to Kuadorian, Beatrice told her a little about herself.
その中でベアトリーチェはお前のことを指して金蔵と呼んでいる。
In that conversation, she referred to you as
これは
Kinzo.
お前を前にしても同じだ。
It was the same when she spoke to you directly,
彼女はお前を父と思っていると言ったにもかかわらず、
though she said
父
she
と
thought
呼
of you as a
んでい
father.
なかった。
She didn't call you father.
呼ばなかったのか、呼ぶことは許されなかったのか。
She either chose not to call you it or she wasn't allowed to call you it.
それが意味することは一
Only
つしか
means
ない。
one thing.
それは何だというの
What might that be? Well, you said not to call her father, or for her
生
to
ま
call
れ変
not
わ
by
りだ。
reincarnation.
お前は娘を忘れがたみだとは思わなかった。
You didn't think of your daughter as the child Beatrice left behind.
死んだベアトリーチェが新しい体で蘇ったと信じたんだ。
You believed the dead Beatrice had revived into a new body. Of course, there's no Kuadorian on Rokkenjima, and there's no war in Ba Sing Se. Genji's just covering all of the bases. You know, he's got a job to do, right? Deny the existence of Kuadorian, etc.
源氏、
Claim that Beatrice too doesn't exist. Genji.
あんたはかつて夏日たちの前で
Once in the past, you spoke in front of Natsuhi and several other
金
family
蔵とベ
members,
アトリーチェに子供はいなかったと証言したことがある
stating
な。
there was never a child between Kinzo and Beatrice.
記憶にございませんが
I have no memory of saying this. Of course, this game's Genji probably wouldn't remember that. However, near the end of the first game, when the survivors all gathered in Kinzo's study, Genji was asked whether they ever had a child together. And he denied it, saying, I've not heard of anything like that.
聞いたことがないか。ある意味で金蔵の腹心らしい模範的な返答
It might have been a
と
lie, but in a way, it was a model answer for one of Kinzo's
何
confidants.
しろ金蔵にとってその娘は
After
生まれ
all,
変わったベアトリーチェそのものなんだからな。
in Kinzo's eyes, she's not a daughter, but Beatrice reborn.
ウィル、
Will?
何の話か分かりませんが、当主様への冒涜は許しません。
I don't know who you were talking about, Will.
Emotional damage.
But I will not let you slander the family head.
冒涜じゃね
It's not
推理
slander.
だ。
It's reasoning.
だが心は理解する。
However, I understand the
ベア
heart
トリーチェはお前にとって最愛の女だった。
in your eyes. And Beatrice was the woman you loved the most.
死んでも色褪せることなく永遠に。
And of course, she remained that way even after death for all eternity without fading in the slightest.
生まれた時から生まれ変わりだと思っていたわけじゃねえだろ
I doubt you thought of her as Beatrice reborn at the moment of her birth.
だが美しい金髪に青い瞳を持ち
However,
そ
it
の
wouldn't
面
be
影を
strange
幼くして持ち合わせてい
if
た
you
その
slowly
娘
began to wonder whether that
お
child,
前は次第に生まれ変わりではないかと信じるよう
his
に
blue eyes and beautiful blonde hair reminded you of a younger
それは
Beatrice,
おかしいことじゃね
might actually be Beatrice reborn.
親方様
Master,
よろしいのですか
Shall I drag this rude child out? Genji asked Kinzo. For a while, Kinzo hung his head in silence as though remembering something from his own past.
娘は美しく育ち生き写しになった
Your daughter grew to be beautiful and nearly identical to her mother.
お前は狂気したろうな
You must have been ecstatic,
それでお前が全て満たされていたかは
but I
怪
doubt
し
you'd
い
be satisfied by that alone.
なぜならお前にとってベアトリーチェは生まれ変わりであっても
After all, although she was Beatrice reborn
当
to
の
you,
本人にとってはそうではなかっ
she
たか
didn't
ら
think of herself that way.
なぜそのようなことがわかるのか。
How can you know that?
本人は自分がベアトリーチェと呼ばれることに違和感を拭えずにいた
When she was called Beatrice, she got this feeling she couldn't shake away, a feeling like something was out of place.
生まれながらに与えられた自分の名前に違和感を覚えることはない
People never feel anything out of place about the name they're given at the time of their
だが
birth,
彼女は覚えた
but she did have that
それ
feeling.
はベアトリーチェという名が
That must mean
自分
she's
のもので
aware
は
the
ない
name
こと
Beatrice wasn't hers.
彼女が自覚していたに他ならない
It's gotta be a weird feeling because some people have the same name 3 generations running. And he's like, she felt the name wasn't hers. It's like, wow, that's a really powerful third sense. Feel like the name is not just an inherited name, but a name you're given that isn't actually yours. In Kuidorian, she asked both Kinzo and Rosa about who she
わらわ
was.
は何者なのか
What?
皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ
Everyone calls me Beatrice.
それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい
It does indeed seem to be the name of a great witch, as you say.
しかし
But it isn't me.
それはわらわではないのだ
And yes, unfortunately for Kinzo, unlike Battler, he lives in the real world. His chick Beato is his actual daughter, and not a magical being that can become the same person when an emergency or the plot demands it. Yes.
わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ
It's not me. I can't use
わ
magic.
らわはその魔女の魂を
I simply have the soul of a witch
何
sealed
に
in my
封じ
body.
られているだけなのだ
記憶は
Or
い
memory.
ずれ戻ったのだ。
Would have returned eventually. Copium.
あれは紛れもなくベアトリーチェの生まれ変わり。
She must truly have been Beatrice
記憶は
reborn.
戻りつつあった。
Her memory is coming back bit by bit as she desperately tries to meet your exacting expectations, so she doesn't get like executed by you. Yeah, maybe. That seems more likely, if you ask me.
沖田さん大
我が魔術の儀式によってわずかずつではあるが記憶を取り戻しつつあった。
My magical ceremonies were helping her regain her memories one little bit at a time. Yeah, okay. Good luck, dude. I mean, sure, you can make that claim. It doesn't mean it's true.
当主様
Head-sama?
驚くことじゃね
No need to be surprised.
えこれまでのゲームの情報を並べりゃ導かれるそのままの答えだ
If you line up all the information in the game so far, this is the obvious answer you get. He's not wrong. That part was pretty straightforward.
上層のベアトリーチェはそれを指して死んで逃れた魔女の魂を逃さず
The high
肉の
level-
体に捉えて閉じ込めた
The
と
high-level Beatrice talked about this. By metaphor, she said that Kinzo refused to let the witch's soul escape even after death.
そして記憶も力も封じられていると例えた
And she instead caught it and locked it up in a body of flesh. She said her power and memory have
そ
been
の解
sealed.
釈もこの推理なら筋が通る
If you match that interpretation of hers to this theory, it makes sense.
ウィラード様
I thought this was all like straightforward and already explained. This is kind of like still a review. Willard-sama.
親方様は 偉大なる魔法の儀式により亡き
Thanks
ベア
to-
トリーチェ様の生まれ変わりとなる器を得たのでございます。
Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Thanks to powerful magical ceremonies, the master gained a reborn child of the dead Beatrice-sama.
それを否定することはできません。
It cannot be denied.
忘れられない思いも
I won't
慈
deny
し
the
む感情
stork.
も否定はしね
You won't deny the stork, but you'll deny their
え。そ
results.
して金蔵がどれだけベアトリーチェという女を深く愛していたかも。
I don't intend to doubt the depths of Kinzo's love for this woman called Beatrice. But that sounds like there's a big but in there.
忘れがたみにどういう愛情を注ぐかは人の勝手だ。
How a man shows his affection for a child who's the only living reminder of her mother is no one's business. Okay.
育つほどに似ていくその姿に金蔵が愛ゆえに特別な感情を持ったとしても
If she grew to look more and more like Beatrice and Kinzo's love gave rise to a new special
俺はそれ
emotion.
を人間らしい感情だと思うぜ。
Well, I find that a very human reaction. Okay, so what?
お前に
You think
我が愛が理解できるというのか。
you can understand my love?
理解する資格はね
I'm not qualified to understand it,
え。だが否定する資格もね
but I'm also not qualified to deny it. He has neither qualification that would be necessary to do either. I see.
おお
Oh,
私を
I skipped the line. No. Beatrice, please
許してくれ。
forgive me. I accidentally double tapped and skipped the Beatrice line. Kinzo sobbed quietly for a while, wiping away his tears. Because of love, he believed she was Beatrice reborn, and raised her that way. However, somewhere in his heart, he might have felt pangs of conscience, telling him he might be forcing his emotions on someone who wasn't really Beatrice. Imagine Kinzo feeling anything other than love for Beatrice. Crazy, right? Then the Beatrice of Kuadorian had an unexpected guest, Rosa. That woman simply couldn't believe she was the Beatrice Kinzo desired. She couldn't stand the fact that she didn't understand who she was. She wanted to escape to the outside world. Gape. The dream. Get beyond that prison. Beyond that cage. And, alas, it only lasted a short while until she went right off a cliff. Yeah, then she fell from a cliff and died.
源氏は表に出せぬその死を内々で処理した。
Genji handled that death, which couldn't become public knowledge, very quietly.
葬式ってのは死者のためにやるんじゃね
Funerals aren't for the dead.
え。生きてる人間が死んだ人間への未練を断ち切るために行うもんだ。
They exist so that those who are alive can sever their ties with the dead.
それ
Okay.
が
You could
で
never
き
do
なか
that.
った。
What
だ
do you
か
mean you
ら
never did? That's
た
why.
だれたんだ。
That's why it festers within you.
ベアトリーチェ。
Beatrice. He seems pretty beat up about that Beatrice part.
おお
If Genji's not insane, you can't understand his thought process of going along with this. He's kind of he's kind of just like, I serve Kinzo and I do what he asks, and then I just don't answer. I don't think about what the results I don't think about what the results will be. I just do as I'm told. Basically, I think is his whole deal. You might be thinking like, wow, this guy's fucking mental. Like, why would you ever follow along with this? But I think his mentality is that I simply act as the agent of him, and it doesn't really matter what I'm doing or not doing. as I merely follow my orders. You know, he's like the lifelong devotee type guy. So, whether or not what he's being asked to do makes sense or he agrees with it is irrelevant. You understand Kinzo going mad? You don't understand Genji? No, Genji is just like the lifelong servant type character. He's like, I've sworn an oath, you know, I'll uphold it, we'll be besties forever or whatever. Or like, I'll serve you forever, and he intends to and actually does follow through with that lifelong service promise. That's what it seems to me.
おじい様
Grandfather?
あんたは愛人の娘を
You lost your mistress's daughter?
いや
No.
ベアトリーチェを2度失った
You lost Beatrice twice.
その悲しみを表に出すことができず胸の奥に押し込み
Unable to let that sorrow show on the outside, you kept it locked up in
そ
your
れが
heart.
やがてただれて狂気に変わった
It festers and turns into madness.
それが晩年まで異常なまでのオカルト趣味に駆り立てる
That's what spurred on your normally strong interest in the occult in your later years. He's really hitting him where it hurts, isn't he? His love of the occult. A sign of madness. Now a sign of madness.
Beatrice! Beatrice!
Yep, I can see that, dude.
なぜ
Why? Because... Not real.
なぜに二度までも私の前から去るのか
It probably wasn't her intention, but why do you think she left twice?
前の微笑みをその美しい髪
Beautiful hair.
瞳を
Those eyes.
私は二度も抱きしめながら
Oof, why did you die in my arms? Not once.
なぜに二度も死すのか
But twice. Man just
それ
can't
ほ
get
ど
straight.
までに
Is that how much?
それほどまでに私を
How much you what?
ベアトリーチ
And there it is, the line. And the face, mirrored. By now, Kinzo wasn't even trying to suppress his sobs. He sometimes scratched his head in anguish, sometimes faced the heavens like an opera singer. Kinzo yelled over and over again, repeating Beatrice's name. Beatrice! At that moment, there was a quiet sound of a door closing. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa had appeared. The rumor monger, the gossip, the queen of gossip.
そこまでをご存知でしたら
They already know that much.
もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのではありませんか
Perhaps we can tell them the rest.
そこまでを知るなら
Although, if they know that
これ以上何も語ることなどないとも思う
I
が
don't believe there's anything more to tell. Oh, but there
い
is.
いえ語るべきでございます
We should tell them.
私は女として
As a woman,
クアドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました
I always thought the heart of Kuadorian's Beatrice is a story that should be told. Is that where we're going?
その資格を持つ人間が現れました
And now someone's appeared who is worthy to hear it.
今こそすべてを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます
I believe now's the time to tell all without holding back. Apparently, Will's worthy.
熊沢さんは知っているのですか
Masawa-san, do you know something? Evidently.
ベアトリーチェのことを
About Beatrice? No, we merely say the words. Oh, Beatrice! Really pale lip
知ってるだろ
service. Alright, good night, my dude. Have fun.
第
Of course
4
he
の
does.
ゲームの時連絡船の船長は
In the
熊
fourth
沢
game,
がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。
we have testimony from the ferryboat captain saying Kumasawa went in and out of Kuwadorian.
熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で
I'm willing to bet that Kumasawa had different work shifts at the mansion and
若
Kuwadorian.
い娘の世話だ。
There was a young girl to be taken
育
care
児
of.
経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
Kumasawa, with her long experience in taking care of children, must have been of immense value.
さようでございます。
Correct.
乳母であったとおっしゃっていただいてもよ
Might
ろ
even
しいかと
call
思い
me
ま
her
す。
wet nurse.
そんな
Oh, wait.
信じられ
I
ない。
can't believe it. Sorry, Leon. It's true. Well, as true as some things can be.
本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか？
Everything Will's saying is the truth?
はい、事実でございます。
It's a fact.
ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷。
A secret mansion was constructed on the opposite side of the island for Beatrice.
クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
Kuwadorian's existence is the truth.
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、
I don't know when Kinzo married his official wife.
当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち、ロッケン島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は
At the time, he already had an enormous store of wealth he had and bought Rokkenjima whole. Yep.
交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建てて、
He then
そ
built
こに
two
2つの生
mansions
活を両立
and
させ
set
たん
up
だ。
two separate lives. He's a very talented man, this Kinzo. Able to live two lives. Well, I'd say like 3/4 of one and 1/4 of another. Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities at the time. It probably hadn't been easy to maintain two separate lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and sniffed about all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限りクワド
Master
リア
stayed
ン
in
へ通わ
Kuwadorian
れ
as
ま
much
し
as
た。
time allowed, which probably wasn't much. If we're
時に
thinking
は
about it.
ご出張と偽られ何日も滞在され
He would sometimes pretend to go on a business trip and stay there for several days. Well, I guess that's one way to stay at Kuwadorian. I'm going on a business trip. I'm going to take this boat and see you later. Proceeds to just go around to the backside of the island. Everyone waves to see him off and he just laughs at their backs. Seems like a nice dude. Alright.
ベアトリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。
Yeah, lots of people are willing to be complicit in really messed up shit. After all, that's kind of how we got like the first murder in Hinamizawa, right? Where they were like, oh, I guess we're kind of this far along. That was kind of the pitch originally, was like, well, if we've already done this much, you're all complicit anyway, so you better hide the body. Yeah, Genji seems to have been like committed really hard to Kinzo from the beginning, though. Like even as early as this, he's already super committed to get to as early as like this previous Beatrice. He's like super committed and aware of things already. I don't know what's in it for him, honestly, but like that's the whole point of this furniture deal, right? Like they haven't explained to us what the furniture is and how like Genji works if he's furniture, because they say like these two are Canon and Shan are furniture and like are only like half a soul and Canon doesn't really exist. And I'm like, how does that apply to Genji? And it doesn't really follow. Like, I'm not sure what Genji's supposed to be if he doesn't exist. If he's only half in existence. It's kind of a bit of a confusing like metaphor or whatever. Hopefully they elaborate on that and clear it up soon. Because I'm not sure how Genji works with the whole furniture deal. But I guess it's just like the super hardcore dedicated servants, maybe? Alright.
それは親子としての関係だけでなく
It wasn't a father-daughter
亡
relationship.
きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
You could sometimes catch a glimpse of the great love for the dead Beatrice-sama, and it was a heartwarming thing. She says heartwarming, I say creepy.
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあった
The way you say it makes it sound like you sometimes
と言っ
treated
てい
her
るようにも聞こえるな
as a substitute for the dead Beatrice. That's what I'm hearing too. It sounds super creepy.
おや
Yeah. Kumasawa. Oh, it's so heartwarming. You're just like, this is like unreal. This is absurdly high on the creep scale. Oh my god. Stay away from me. Stay away. Kumasawa. Like, I can understand Genji being like, I am the servant of Kinzo. If he does something sketchy, it doesn't matter because I'm in this to make sure this family succeeds. I don't get Kumasawa being like, ah yes, this grooming incestuous relationship with a small child isn't creepy at all. It's adorable. And you're like, damn, Kumasawa, alright.
そう聞こえたなら
It sounded that way.
申し
My
訳ござい
apologies.
ません。ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょう。
Beatrice-sama probably accepted her father's love. Dude, Kumasawa, phrasing! Phrasing! Are we not doing phrasing? Come on.
しかし時
However, I
に
won't
ご
deny.
自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは
He
否
was
定で
sometimes
きません。
forced to bear a love she didn't understand. Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who had raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was sometimes misplaced. However, the more she grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted. No, we're definitely trying to
マジ
push.
で我が友よ
You're right to scold me, my friend. Dude, this is super cringe, of course.
分かっておる
I understand. Do you now? Do
我
you?
が愛は永遠に不滅
My love is eternal and dying.
な
Undying.
れ
Okay.
どそれが間違った相手に
But I have
注
to
がれたことがあったの
Acknowledge what?
私は
I poured that affection. What about the affection?
認めねばな
Onto
る
the wrong
Jesus.
person? Yeah, okay. Grandfather.
まさか
You don't mean. Wait, how are you not? How are you just getting this,
リオン様、
Leon-sama?
世の中のすべての人間には必ず何かの縁がございます。
In the world are tied to each other.
身に覚えがなくとも必ず何かの縁がございます。
Even if they don't notice, there is always some sort of tie.
その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
Those ties wrap around themselves around people and bring them together. Okay.
そんな
No way. No way. Yes way, apparently. You're just gonna have to deal, my dude. Sorry.
おじいさま
Grandfather. Just as Kinzo had done, Leon also wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently the truth had been too much of a shock for the young successor to handle.
親方様、
Master?
もう語る時ではございませんか。
The time to speak has arrived, has it not? Hello? Kumasawa makes some very strange points. Kumasawa makes some very strange points. Incest is okay because people are connected in some way, shape, or form. Pretty vague statement. Pretty sketchy statement. Not really qualified in any way. I'm not sure I can agree with it or even understand where she's coming from there. But Kumasawa's a very strange person.
そうか。
I see.
その時が来たか。
Time has come.
我が友よ。
What time? Explain.
あんたが語らなきゃ
Unless you tell us,
何も真実は明らかにならない。
none of the truth will become clear.
親方様、
Master.
もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思いま
I
す。
believe they may have the qualifications and the right to know.
分かっている。今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与え
Perhaps
た
on
の
this
だ。
day of my fickle funeral, Beatrice in heaven has given me a chance to atone.
今日まで
Is that how you
話さ
see
な
things?
かったことを許せ。
Forgive me for not telling you this before now. After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face. He looked at Will and Leon with those red eyes. Just staring at us. Wait, red eyes? Red eyes. He doesn't even have a sprite for red eyes.
おじい様。
Grandfather?
リオンも聞け。
Listen to, Leon.
客人よ。
Guest? There's a few of us who are relevant here. Okay.
ウィラードと言った。
Willard, was it? Yes, thank you. I'm glad he remembered my name. Red eyes, like he was just crying. Right. The man has spent like 20 minutes crying over Beatrice. I almost forgot that. I know it's kind of rude, but
この私
it's
が
easy to forget.
自らの口より真実を話せるうちにこの機会を設けてくれたことを感謝する。
Thank you for allowing me to speak of the truth while I'm still able.
お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わされた
You must
天
surely be
の使いに違い
a
ない。
messenger from heaven sent by Beatrice. Not quite, but you're on the right track.
感謝する。
You have my gratitude. Oh, you don't need
そ
that.
の機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃね
Beatrice isn't the one you have
え。
to
どこ
thank.
ぞの魔女だ。
It was just a witch.
いや、どっちも魔女には違いね。
I guess they're both witches.
お前が誰でもよい。
I don't care who it was. I mean, we need someone to help us.
私に機会を与えた。
I don't care. I've been given a chance. Just one chance, one opportunity to. Wait, no,
そ
wrong,
れで十分。
wrong series. That is enough.
感謝するぞ、ウィラードとやら。
Thank you, Willard. Willard. And I should call anyone whose name is Willard. See what their reaction is. That name is crazy. Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hand. He was offering to shake hands. It must be in Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude, and Will responded. Then the two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. Will felt as though something the size of a grain had burned itself into his palm. It was the power that Bernkastel had given him. The light grew brighter and brighter, but it seemed that Kinzo and the others couldn't see it.
今こそ語ろう。
Now, I will speak.
私がベアトリーチェに
I met Beatrice. Wow, that's a statement of the century, alright. You met someone. Got it.
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったのは終戦間際。
Beatrice Castiglioni, just before the end of the war. And she's Italian, strangely enough, so that's gonna be a bit awkward, considering Italy certainly wasn't in a great position at the time. I guess that's why she had all the gold. She's running with it.
彼女は
She
海
came
の
from
向
across
こ
the
うか
sea.
らやってきた。
Alright, Castiglioni. Damn, man, she looks like she's 80. Like legit old.
お前は金蔵なのか？
Are you Kinzo?
昔のおじい様です。
That's how grandfather looked in the past? Seriously?
写真で見たことがあります。
I've seen photos. Oh boy.
これは一体。
Which what on earth?
ベルン・カステルのくれた感激者の力だ。
It's the theater going power Berncastel gave
無
me.
理に理解するな。
Don't try to understand. It'll inevitably mess up your head, I understand.
頭痛になら
I'll just get a headache. Yeah, you're figuring it out. You're getting the hang of this now, just accept it and be like, oh fuck, that's dumb. Moving on. At one time, Genji told Battler he looked like Kinzo in his youth. Is this Kinzo in his youth? Battler's got a ways to go. A ways to go. Sure enough, though the young Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar.
改めて名乗ろう。
Allow me to introduce myself again.
私が後宮金蔵である。
This is just straight up using Battler's voice actor again. How many times are we going to use Battler's voice actor to play a different character? Leon asking if anyone's sane here? Nah, nobody's sane here. Even Leon isn't sane, because Leon's an insert character and isn't real. But thinks they are. I'm Ushirimiya Kinzo.
おじい様。
Grandfather. Even the voice seemed to resemble Battler's somehow. Yes, somehow. Mysterious, isn't it? If only we had a method by which that was possible. Nah, that'd be silly.
私は後宮家など継ぎたくはなかった。
I have no desire to succeed the Ushirimiya family headship.
私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
My being chosen as head is nothing more than a prank of fate. That might be the case. He's not necessarily wrong.
関東大震災で主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
In the Great Kanto earthquake, those in charge passed away and you were selected from among the branch families. Deal with it, fam.
そうです。
That's correct. In youth, Kinzo inherited the family at 23. Who would have been an adult, but apparently, this is near the end of the war is 20 years after. That's a young Kinzo would have been like 40. He still looks like he's in his 80s, though. Oh my god, he looks like an old man. That's correct.
おじい様は若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でしたから。
After all, grandfather was wise despite his youth and possessed a dignity fitting for the headship. Alright then.
とんでもない。
Ridiculous.
欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかったのだ。
They were just looking for their own looking out for their own personal interests and couldn't decide on a new head at all.
まるで沈みゆく船で新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさよ。
It was as foolish as arguing about who the new captain should be on a sinking ship. Oh, so that useful. I see. Well, we know. Yeah, time to bail. Probably a good time to bail, right? Good time to bail. I'm sensing good time to bail.
だからこそ、本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
Since you had no connections with anyone in the main family, you were selected right out of the blue. Yeah, the impression's probably that it's an easy easy person to control.
すべてはこの足の指のせいだ。
It's all because of my toes.
足の
My
指が一
toes, my
本ずつ
lucky
足りなかっ
toes.
たなら、我が人生は全く異なるものになってい
If
た。
only I'd had one less on each foot, my life may have turned out quite differently. Yeah, that would have been very strange, wouldn't it? Having your life dictated by the number of toes you have. A strange feeling, to be sure. knowing that that's the case. In the Ashiramiya family, polydactyly was seen as the mark of good fortune. See, they're even laying it out for us, and you're just like, that's a weird coincidence, isn't it? Okay, after all, many of the great ones in their family history had possessed it? Okay.
くだらぬ話よ。
It's all very pathetic.
長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば
The elders didn't care who they dragged in as long as it wouldn't benefit any one of them particularly. Makes sense?
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入り
They just happened to hear that someone in one of the branch families had 6 toes. Yes, Kinzo's a footman, although not necessarily by choice. It seems like he's kind of getting it forced on him, namely by other people who worship people with extra toes. Or worship feet. Which honestly, it probably isn't that great. It's like, oh great, my people in my family worship people's feet. Oh, great. Oh, what now? Joy. I feel like that would get old pretty quickly. But it's what it is.
それでいいと決まったわけか
They decided someone like that would do well enough. That's what it seems like, yes.
そういうことだ。
Precisely.
長老どもは自分たちの操り人形になるなら
The elders didn't care what sort of novice became the next head.
どこの青二歳でもよかったのだ。
As long as they could make him their
む
puppet.
しろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
In fact, the more this person was ignorant of leadership, the better it would be for them. More control, more power. Everything you could ever want over someone. Puppet.
おじい様
Grandfather? Yes.
リオン。
Leon?
お
Leon?
前は
It's quite
違う。
different. It's quite different in your case.
お前は我が全てを受け継ぐものだ。
You'll be the only one who inherits everything I have. That's very
お
generous.
前が生を受けた日より、それは運命づけられ
That's
てい
the
る。
fate you were granted on the day of your birth?
だからこそ、お前に銀の指輪を与え、厳しく育ててきた。
That's why I gave you that silver ring and raised you so strictly. Me just sitting here thinking like, what? And the OC do not seal as the rightful heir? Okay.
そなたは私とは違
You're
う。
so different from me. Raised from birth to be the heir. Poor Kraus. Meanwhile, Kraus weeping salty tears. Jessica weeping salty tears at never being worthy enough. And this last minute insert counts.
誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
You're already a splendid successor of whom none could be ashamed.
はい
Yes.
操り人
Jessica's.
形の
Why would
当
Jessica
主
be happy? Because she doesn't have to actually. She can fuck off and play music and doesn't have to deal with the responsibility. She's still backup successor, so she's probably gonna get some work, right? I guess it's not as much as Leon. Kroos, on the other hand, though, he's probably done nothing but weep. Either tears of joy that someone in his family was picked, or salty tears that he wasn't picked to be a successor despite being firstborn.
気楽なものじゃねえだろうな
A puppet for a head? I doubt that could have been easy. Well, that's what they were going for. Okay, Kinzo. As he pondered where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. Oh, having a good day, Kinzo? It would probably bring back painful memories no matter where he started from.
あれは
It
あまり
lasted
に
for so
長
long.
い長い
That span of
灰
gray
色の
days.
日々であった。それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような
A land of gray skies, gray trees, and everlasting dragons. Oh, wrong setting, sorry.
死んだ時間。
The dizzying stretch of time I spent dead like moss growing on a rock. I became the rope in the tug of war between the elders who thought of nothing but their own profit. I probably could have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. Though I spent many days as though I'd been killed, I was not killed. So I was forced to search for death on my own. And there you met Beatrice. Before I realized it, I'd reached an age at which the young would laugh at me if I tried to call myself young. The dizzying long stretch of gray was left completely empty. It lasted a full 20 years. In 20 years, a person can be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. Gonna be rough. And what did you do during that time? It looks like you just sat there looking for a purpose or any reason to exist. Maybe because you were in a situation where you couldn't control it, or I don't know what, but rough, Kinzo. In short, one only becomes a human when they become a working adult. Then I spent a period of time long enough to create a human, doing nothing but playing the part of those greedy elders' puppet. Ironically, though that time aged my body, it did not age my mind. My mind alone was still as young as it had been during those rich, happy days before I was summoned to Odawara, and yet my body grew older and older. Eventually, the vast gap between the two reached almost incomprehensible levels. I could hardly believe the worn-out man in the mirror was really me, or it really wasn't me. The head of the Ishiromiya family was just a name. It had no power. It didn't require that I have any independence. There was no need for me to get involved with anything. I was just a doll sitting there on the doll rack gathering dust. I remember nothing but lazily flipping through Western books I liked, locking myself up in my own world, doing nothing but playing with roses, drinking terrible drinks. And it lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I suddenly had a wife I didn't know. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. It was the daughter of some noble family the elders chose and forced on me for their own reasons. But that didn't matter to me. I didn't love my wife, but neither did I dislike her. I just didn't care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for her. They were just born before I knew it. Kinzo does not. Kinzo's pullo game sucks. But in reality, it's just he doesn't use protection. Alright. That's all there was to it. None of it mattered. No, it's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. It was the job of the Ishiromiya family head.
Ah. このまま自分は静かに殺されるなど。
Some level, it did feel like I was being slowly and quietly killed.
信じられません。
Can't believe it.
強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
I think that you, the one praised for being such a bold and wise ruler, lived life like that for so long. Yeah, and where are all the people in Odawara? That's right, they're probably all dead too.
リオンよ。
Leon?
自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。
So long and faint is the life you do not live for yourself. I see.
なのに、それはあっという間に過ぎ去るのだ。
And yet it slides on by in the blink of an eye. Nothing so long and faint is the life you don't live for yourself. Am I being called out, Kinzo? Am I being called out, Kinzo?
心せよ。
Don't forget this.
自ら生きる人生。
A life you live for yourself.
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。
But living means having your own
殺され
will.
た日々だったろうよ。
You were probably dead during that time.
そうだ。
Precisely.
私は生き
I
たかっ
wanted
た。
to live.
いや、
No,
死にたかった。
I wanted to die.
操り人形はどうす
How
れ
can a
ば死
puppet
ねる？
die?
糸を断ち切ることです。
Cutting the strings.
そうだ。
Correct.
それが死ぬことであり、
That
生
would
き
be
ること
death.
であり。
And it would also be life. Freedom from your strings. Okay. Since it would mean being free, it would mean life. Yes, as I said. Before I realized it, trouble was brewing in the world. World War II, the Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west, and the tide of the war was changing. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. Well, that's convenient. Of course, this was not out of compassion for me. I said it's convenient. I didn't say that it was compassionate of them to do that. It was because I was their precious puppet. The war really never felt that close to me. It's just a war, I guess. However, when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. At the time, the Yashiramiya family had almost completely collapsed. Since the elders had apparently gathered enough of the scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed not to care for what I did now that they no longer had any use for me. So I realized I had finally found my time to die. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from. I began searching for a place to end my life. So you searched for death on the battlefield? Is that what Kinzo was searching for? The miracle he was looking for this whole time? I thought if I was going to die anyway, I should try to be of some use to my country. Well, I guess it's better than nothing. No, that's a lie. No. That wasn't entirely unpredictable. I probably just lacked the willpower to end my own life, and there's a convenient opportunity to do so in the enemies nearby. War was a suitable excuse for death. See? I heard grandfather had knowledge necessary for public works projects and construction. So he was tasked with setting up facilities for the Navy construction team? Okay. What a foolish mistake that was. Oh, if only I'd said I had no useful skills, I could have been sent to the dangerous front lines right away. That's awkward, isn't it? You didn't get to go to the front lines? You didn't need to go to the front lines? Some of the others were overjoyed at their luck. It was the opposite for me. I only wanted to get drunk on the liquor known as dying for the sake of one's country. US planes did nothing but cut across the skies of that forgotten land. He's so disappointed that he's not getting killed by the enemy. They didn't have a bullet to spare for me, much less a bomb. This man seems so disappointed in that. He's like, they couldn't at least kill me? How disappointing. Most people would be like, I'd rather not die, but I can see he is on a mission to find his own death, so it's not surprising that he's like that. Is this the time you met Beatrice, grandfather? Correct. She came to me from the sea. Where did you meet her? You mentioned an island. Correct, this island. Where she arrived. You met her here, on Rokkenjima, apparently. What's going on? I heard Rokkenjima was uninhabited until you bought it, grandfather. I never knew there was a Japanese military base here. Neither did we. Smuggler's Cove, perhaps? You could hardly call that a military base.
ただの岩窟よ。
It was just a cave.
私はその岩窟の番人だったのだ。
And I was one of the guards of that cave. (1944). Oh boy, flashback time. Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry shown at Pearl Harbor gone? The old attackers were now the ones on the defensive. At that time, it was said the last trump card for the Japanese military was a type of manned torpedo known as the Kaiten. It was said that these ultimate weapons, packed with 1.5 tons of explosives, could sink any kind of warship in a single blast. Yeah, their hopes died at Midway. RIP. To strengthen homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from Hachijo Island to Yokosuka. All these to house submarines loaded with Kaiten torpedoes.
八丈島に基地が作られたことは知っていました。
I know there was a Kaiten base construction on Hachijo
し
Island.
かしそれがロッケン島にもあったなん
Was
て。
there actually one on Rokkenjima too?
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。
What fool decided to plant a base on this desolate island? That we'll never know.
一区上の都合
It better preserve its secrecy?
バカバカしい。
Ridiculous.
お上の考え
Ridiculous.
ることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだった。
I could never understand what the higher-ups were thinking, and I didn't particularly want to. I guess you just mine every island and hope for the best. Seems like an okay strat. The Kaiten, which could finish off a large warship with a single strike, truly was an ultimate weapon. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons into waters just off Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line defense. Yes, that awkward moment when kamikaze attacks can't actually get through naval vessel hulls, so all you're doing is flying your plane into a steel wall. Assuming you make it to the boat in the first place. So to aid the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island Rokkenjima was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs. This was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
You're tasked with aiding in the establishment of that base?
建設
Establishment?
岩窟を掘り広げただけを
Want to call
建
digging
設
out
と
a
呼ぶな
cave
らな。
establishment? Sort of works.
しかもその上、基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
Not only that, the base was abandoned before its completion. Well, that's not going well.
どうしてです？
Why? The war ended.
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。
At that time, Japan no longer had any submarines large enough to transport a Kaiten torpedo. Well, that's a good reason.
滑稽な話だ。
How truly laughable.
潜水艦もないのに、潜水艦基地など今更
What's the point in
必
having a
要なも
submarine
のか。
base if there aren't any submarines left? He makes a very valid point.
役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬわ。
If there's one thing that never changes, it's politicians and meaningless projects. The base on Hachijo Island was outfitted with Kaiten torpedoes and became a base for direct attacks. Rokkenjima was never supplied with any. Furthermore, the construction was eventually suspended. A minimum number of men were stationed on the island waiting for orders from above that never came. Could perhaps the fact it was a hidden base actually have sealed our fate? The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cave. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt, all the while gazing at the American formations flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospects of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here. Before any of us had to face a real battle. And Kinzo's sitting there like, God damn it, I wanted to fight and die. Of course, it was the opposite for me. That's right. I hoped and hoped for the Americans to advance and kill me as soon as possible. The days were empty and blank. Let us go back. Back to the turning point in my life and my fate. The time that Yoshirimiya Kinzo finally became alive. Oh wait. Oh wait, not wrong character.
貴様たるんでいるぞ。
Step it up!
決戦は間近というのに、そのへっぴり腰は何か。
What are you doing? Slacking off of the fighting too close? We're not gonna see any fighting, probably. Stars seem to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that'd only make him more angry. I've got no intention of being obedient. Still, it'd be stupid to get myself punched for no reason. So I got up and stood at attention. At attention. Alright. The fighting's close, isn't it? You really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island? Let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time.
その腐った目つきは何か。
What's this cowardly look you're wearing? I don't know.
貴様、そんなに死にたくないか。
Is this how afraid you are of death?
そんなに米兵が恐ろしいか。
Are you so scared of those Americans? Classic misunderstanding. I don't think he's scared of them.
そんな気合では打ち取れんぞ。
You won't be killing any of them with an attitude like that. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong about that one. I got hit again. Could you please quit your whining already? Filthy cowards. They let themselves be controlled by this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit aren't of any use when the battle becomes hopeless. When trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans tend to rely on several other emotions to escape fear. For these young, inexperienced soldiers, anger was a convenient emotion to fall back on. Anger is what they use to paralyze their fear. We made them chant, "Damn the British, damn the Americans." They swung their bamboo drills around and called it bamboo spears around and called it drilling. You think a bamboo spear is going to even... Well, I mean, it can kill someone, but still. The more wine you drink, the more you need to drink to get drunk. Their useless anger continued piling up day after day without pause. And I didn't fear death. I had no need of the wine called anger. It made their cowardice all the more apparent to me.
その目つきだ。
What's that look on your face?
後ろ宮、貴様の魂は腐りきっておるわ。
Yoshirimiya, you've lost your nerve down to your soul.
魚だ。
You're a fish. That's what you are.
貴様の目は死んだ魚の目だ。
You got the eyes of a dead fish. However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick up on my lethargy.
後ろには金蔵はいるか。
Is Yoshirimiya Kinzo here?
注意殿がお呼びだ。
And it's looking for you.
立て。
Oh, are you in trouble? Stand up.
もたもたするな。
No slouching around.
駆け足。
Double time. All right. First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokkenjima garrison. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence. Would often reprimand his subordinates for slacking off at the drop of a hat. Whenever he was in a good mood and started spouting off stories about his life, they were all about how much of a thug he'd been, ignoring the rules of society, on and on about how so-and-so was a prick and taught him a lesson, or how everyone was scared of him so he got special treatment. He kept on talking about what a vile human he was, as though it was a badge of honor. Normally I had nothing to do with this lieutenant who I couldn't respect in any way. He'd always hang around with his NCOs. And that's so long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Now that the construction project on the island was suspended indefinitely, there was no longer any use for an engineer like me. So why did the lieutenant ask to see me specifically? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything. Oh, you're gonna have to think quickly, because here comes...
Ushiromiya!
Ushiromiya!
貴様は外国語が堪能であると聞いたが事実であるか?
You're good with foreign languages.
英語と中国語を話せるであります。注意殿。
He wants to know if he speaks English.
英語と中国語を話せるであります。注
I'm
意殿。
proficient in both English and Chinese, sir. Lieutenant liked to brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officers, but he held a bit of a grudge against me for being even more highly educated than him. Since he also felt uncomfortable about having a subordinate who was older than him, I wasn't exactly the type he's willing to confide in. Just the fact I knew several languages must have hurt his pride. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
ならばイタリア語はどうか?
What about
わ
Italian?
かりません。
I don't speak that.
では貴様にイタリア人との通訳は務まらんというわけか?
You wouldn't be much use help, but you wouldn't be much help as an interpreter between me and an Italian person, would you?
英語を喋れる者がいれば可能と思います。
It should be possible if they can speak English as well.
なるほど、確かに。
Ah, yes, very true, very true.
貴様外国人と英語で話した経験はあるのか?
Have you ever spoken to a foreigner in English?
あります。
I have. Why on earth would he need an interpreter in a cave on an uninhabited island that even our superiors forgot about? Who knows? His question made it clear some guest had arrived on Rokkenjima who needs an interpreter.
よし。
Good.
後ろ宮。貴様を俺の通訳に命ずる。
Ushiromiya, you'll be my interpreter. That's an order. That evening, I found out exactly what he was talking about. Ah, it's a cave. Nice shot of it. Alright. That pointless submarine dock in the cave that had never been used was now being approached slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Interesting track. The background track's quite interesting. Of course, I knew the Italians were our allies, however, this was the first time I'd seen anything from their military with my own eyes.
どうしてイタリア軍が
What's the Italian Navy doing here? You think I know, Leon?
確か1943年にイタリアは降伏しているはずです。
Didn't Italy surrender in 1943?
これはどういうことでしょう
Yeah, what's going on?
降伏したのはイタリア王国だ。
It was the Kingdom of Italy that surrendered?
それを受け入れない者たちは親独政権 RSI を樹立させ
Those that couldn't accept that surrender joined Mussolini and formed the RSI so they could continue fighting.
RSI
RSI?
イタリア社会共和国。
Italian Social Republic.
別名サロ共和国だ。
Also known as the Salo Republic.
詳しいな。
You know your history? I mean, I didn't actually know that, so that's a thing. I guess it's reasonable to assume they would exist. Sure.
何も知らぬ者はイタリアは枢軸国の中で1943年にいち早く降伏した腰抜けなどと呼んでい
The
る。
ignorant dolphin called the Italians cowards, saying they surrendered first of the Axis powers in 1943. I wouldn't say that was necessarily due to cowardice.
それは間違いだ。
It's not quite
イタ
true.
リア社会共和国軍は開戦から1945年
The
4
military
月
of the Italian
29
Social
日
Republic fought bravely from the outbreak of the war
勇敢に戦った。
until April 29th, 1945.
ベルリン降伏はその3日後だ。
And Berlin fell just 3 days after that.
腰抜けどころか大健闘だな。
Far from being cowards, they gave a hell of a fight.
しかし RSI 海軍が日本まで航行できるような潜水艦を
Still, I'm
持っていた
impressed.
とは
The RSI Navy even had possession of a submarine that could travel all the way to Japan. That's a bit of a trip.
そうでなくともはるばる日本ま
It's
で
a
やってきた
surprise they'd come out
自
this
体
far
が
at all.
驚き
Yeah, that's like a submarine that can travel all the way. Well, they didn't travel through the locks. They had to go all the way around Africa. That's pretty crazy. All the way around Africa, India, and up the Chinese coast. Reach Japan? Damn, that's a trip.
彼らはなぜ
Yeah,
日
why
本
come to Japan
ロッケン島に
and to Rokkenjima? Gold, right? It was the gold. The submarine was both weather-worn and massive. Anyone even imagined a foreign submarine would come all the way out here? It's probably got like a bunch of treasure it wants to hide from the Allies or something. Alright, anyone imagine that? Yep. When we never even had one of our own submarines dock here? Yeah. All the guards on Rokkenjima, which were only about 30, stood at attention as the submarine docked.
イタリア軍なんて初めて見たぜ。
Never seen the Italian military before.
なんでも事故か触雷で航行不能になったんだと。
Heard a mine or some accident trashed their sub.
換気装置がやられて塩素ガスが換気できなくなったって聞いたぞ。
Sounds like their ventilator broke down and the cabin got packed with chlorine gas.
注意殿の話によると何か重要なものを運んでるって話だ。
Lieutenant was hinting about there being something very, very important in there.
暗号変換器か新型エンジンなんかの設計図じゃないのか。
You mean like a code machine or the blueprints for some new kind of engine?
オラ積みに云々より上層部がまだここを覚えててくれたことの方が驚きだぜ。
I don't care. I don't care about what they're carrying. I'm more surprised the higher ups still remember we existed.
後ろ宮早く来い
Hurry, Shiromio.
貴様は通訳だろうが
How are you supposed to interpret from over there? He's in awe at the book.
はい、注意殿。
Sir. On top of the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked like those of a sailor. It didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. It meant all the commissioned officers in charge had died in the accident that had befallen this sub. Crew members crawled out of the hatch one by one, but they all looked pale and entirely worn out. I'm not sure how long ago the accident happened, but being crammed together in a sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. Yeah, I'm sure they're fine. Not only had the ventilators broken, but traveling about carelessly on the surface of the waters around Japan these days would be foolish in the extreme. Yeah, that'd be nerve-wracking, for sure. You'd probably randomly get sunk. That would suck. It'd been like a trip inside of a can of poison gas. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital
後ろ
room.
宮艦長は誰か聞け
Ask them who the captain is.
私がこの島の指揮官であることを説明せよ
Tell them I'm in charge of this island.
ようこそ日本へ。
Welcome to
英
Japan.
語がわかる者は
Any of you speak English? The crew members seemed to understand I was speaking English, but it looked as though none of them could speak it. I like how he spoke entirely in Japanese for that. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted.
ようこそ日本へ。
He says, "Welcome to Japan" with the pointy bracket. I guess it's implying he's speaking English.
艦長でありますか。
Are you the captain?
I can not speak English.
I can't speak English.
Please wait.
Please wait. The officer answered in slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling him to get someone among them who could speak English.
後ろ宮何と言っている
Shiryu, what are they talking about?
待てと言っています。
They asked us to wait.
英語のわかる人間を呼んでいるのかも
They
しれ
might
ませ
be
ん。
looking for someone who can speak English. At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man's cough. It was a woman's.
私英語わかるわ
I speak English. The whole conversation takes place in Japanese. It's funny, but alright. As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said this in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she was seemed like an angel descending
よう
upon
こそ
us.
日本へ。
Welcome to
艦長はい
Japan.
ますか。
Who's the captain
艦
then?
長は死んだわ
Captain's dead.
士官はあそこの彼だけよ
That man over there is the only officer
お
left.
悔やみ申し上げます。
My
何か
condolences.
お手伝いはできますか？
May we do anything to assist you?
新鮮な空気と水が欲しいわ。
Fresh air and water.
まだ息のある人間もいる。
Some of us are still having trouble breathing.
休ませる場所が欲しいわ。
And we'd like a place to rest.
協力しましょ
We would of course be happy to
う。
help.
他に英語のわかる人間はいますか？
Do any of the others understand English?
いたけどみんな死んだわ。
The ones who did are all dead. Rip.
私だけよ。
I'm the only one left.
後ろ宮、女は何を言っている？
Shirbio, what's that woman
艦
talking
長
about?
は誰だ？さっきの男なのか？
Who's the captain? The man from a second ago?
その女は何者なのか？早く通訳しろ！
Who's that woman? Get translating already, goddammit. He's not a professional translator. He just speaks the language. But it's alright. The lieutenant had been yelling like that for a while now. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear from a submarine, and more than a little annoyed to see all of her attention focused on me alone. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was.
注意殿。
Sir,
彼女だけが英語をわかるようです。
it seems she's the only one who understands
彼女が
English.
彼らの通訳になります。
She'll act as their interpreter.
艦長は死亡。
The captain is dead.
代表者は先ほどの士官のようです。
That officer seems to be acting in his place.
あのうるさくあなたに叫んでいる男は何者？
Who's that loud man who keeps yelling?
まさかあなたの上司なの？
Don't tell me he's your superior.
不幸なことに、
Unfortunately, he is.
私が美しいお嬢さんを独り占めしているのが気に入らないんでしょう。
He's probably not wrong, but he probably doesn't like it seeing me have such a beautiful lady all to myself. He's not wrong.
あら、
Oh? Oh?
東洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思わなかったわ。
I didn't expect flattery from an Asian.
綺麗な英語ね。
Your English is superb.
あなたは育ちが良さそうだわ。
I imagine you've been brought up very
あの
well.
怒鳴ってるみっともない男とは大違い。
Unlike that rude man who keeps on
あな
shouting.
たがここの将校だったらよかったのに。
They should have made you the officer in charge around here.
おや、
Oh.
私も西洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思いませんでした。
I never expected flattery from a Westerner.
あなたは面白い人だわ。
An interesting man. This guy's spending more time flirting than he is translating. Bad translator.
名前は？
What's your name?
後ろ宮金蔵です
Shirei Kinzo.
よろしければお嬢さんの名前もぜ
If
ひ。
you don't mind, may I ask for your name as well?
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニ。
Beatrice Castiglioni. Alright.
ようこそベアトリーチ
Welcome, Beatrice.
ェ日本へ。
Welcome to Japan. Welcome to Rokkenjima, the last island you'll ever see. Sorry, was that too ominous? That was when I first met Beatrice, the woman who would capture my heart for the rest of my life.
ベアトリーチェとはイタリア人だったのですか？
Beatrice was an Italian. The Italian pronunciation of Beatrice didn't give it away, apparently.
そうだ。
Yes.
彼女は RSI 高官の娘だった。
She's the daughter of a high-ranking RSI
ど
official.
うやら彼女の父親こそが一番の積み荷だったらしい。
Apparently, their most important cargo was her father
残
himself.
念ながらロッケン島にたどり着いた時に
Sadly, he had died by the time they reached Rokkenjima.
その高官がなぜ日本に？
And why would a high-ranking official like that come to Japan?
スエズ運河からインド洋を越えて
You saying he went through the Suez Canal, crossing the Indian Ocean to come all the way here?
確かに
Good point. I didn't think they'd be able to use the Suez Canal. I don't remember who controlled that at the time.
同盟国としてはドイツの方がはるかに近いは
If
ず。
they wanted to reach one of their allies, Germany would have been much closer.
なぜわざわざ日本までやってきたのでしょう？
I make the long trip to Japan? They're probably running.
途方もない規模の遠大な作戦か何かだったのか
They
も
may have
し
been
れ
part
な
of some grand, outrageous strategy. Oh, okay, so conjecture. That's what we're going with.
その全容はわからん。
I don't know the
その
details.
潜水艦がただならぬ任務を帯びていたらしいことは
But
後
shortly
に
after, I
理
learned
解すること
this
と
submarine's
な
mission was far from a minor one. They said there had been about 60 of them at the time of their departure. However, only about 10 of them, including Beatrice, survived. Their submarine had hit a mine or something in the nearby waters, sustaining a great deal of damage. They told us it flooded rapidly with water which had taken out the batteries and released a lot of chlorine gas. Their sub had been completely incapable of continuing further, nothing but a massive lump of metal floating by the dock. Since the sub seemed to be carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. After questioning the Italians, with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, we concluded the thing of immense value must have been her father himself. No mention of gold. Apparently Beatrice's father was extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought he might have worked alongside Mussolini himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently been some top-secret mission, now that the man himself and all the commissioned officers were dead, their reason for coming to Japan was a complete mystery. Wow, that sucks. Everyone who knows anything about the plan, dead. Well, now what? And our higher-ups were telling us to investigate, which meant that even they didn't know what it was. Their ship had broken down. Their mission was unknown. The official they were carrying was dead. Even the Japanese government didn't know why they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage came to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end. That's awkward. Gotta be super awkward.
よかった。
That's a relief.
日本の潮風はてっきり醤油の匂いがすると思ってたわ。
I always assumed the seas of Japan would smell like soy sauce. I know people like their soy sauce, but wow, that's a lot of soy sauce. Never considered there would be that much soy sauce.
お互い様です。
What a
イタリア
coincidence.
人の髪はパスタでできてるって思ってました。
I always thought Italians had hair made of pasta.
あら、そうよ。
Of course we
アル
do.
デンテに仕上げるには茹で加減が難しいの。
You have no idea how hard it is to get that perfect al dente texture.
なら日本人はみんなスパゲティネーロだわ。
I imagine you Japanese all wear spaghetti al nero.
よくご存知で。
It seems I see you've done your homework.
日本人はシャンプーの代わりにイカスミを使います。
In Japan, we use squid ink instead of shampoo. I see, I see. That's how they get that dark hair look. I'll have to remember that. Squid ink. Use squid ink, not shampoo. Just taking a note for later.
金蔵はすごいわ。
Amazing, Kinsu.
何でも知っているのね。
Seems you know
イタ
everything.
リアに来たことがあるの？
Have you been to Italy?
ありません。しか
Never.
し本はいろいろと読みまし
I
た。
might have read a few books, though.
東洋人がイタリアの本を？
An Asian man reading Italian
へ
books?
え。例えばどんな？
What kind of books?
ニッコロ・マキャベッリ、
Niccolo
ダンテ・ア
Machiavelli,
リギエリも。
Dante
だ
Alighieri.
からあなたが永遠の淑女であることも存じて
So
い
of
ますよ。
course, know that you're the eternal lady.
おお、なんてこ
What a
と。
surprise!
金蔵はとんでもない勉強家だわ。
You must be quite the bookworm.
あなたはひょっとして日本では高貴な家の出身なのでは？
Does this mean you came from a Japanese noble family?
さあ、
Who knows? I'm not. It's like who knows? I'm not saying no.
あなたは他の野蛮そうな日本人とはまるで違うわ。
You're completely different from those other savage-looking Japanese soldiers.
私にはわかるの。
I can tell.
あなたはきっと高貴な家の人間だわ。
You must have come from a noble family.
後ろ宮家は日本の貴族の家柄なの？
Are the Ushiromiyas some sort of Japanese aristocrats?
とんでもない。
Of course not.
紡績で一山当てただけのただの成
They
金
just
の一
managed
族
to
です。
strike it rich in the spinning industry in recent generations.
私が勉強していたのは高貴なるものとしてのたしなみではなく、
I didn't study all that as part of some noble's hobby.
何をすることも許されなかったら
I just did it because I wasn't allowed to do anything except read,
本を読むか、
play around
ま
with
だ
roses.
酒に溺れるかしかや
And
る
get
ことが
drunk.
なかったからですよ。
There was no trace of malice in Beatrice's words. It was a curious question, asked to a friend from a faraway country. However, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the faint, gloomy look on Kinzo's face. Gloomy? What is gloomy?
許して、金蔵。
Give me Kinzo.
あなたのような高貴な人がどうしてこんなおかしなところで兵卒の身分に甘んじているのか
I didn't stop to consider why a high-class person like
深
you
く考えなかったわ。
would choose to take the position of a common soldier.
私の一族などどうでもいいことです。
Don't give a damn about my family line. They kind of all
死ね
suck,
ば
yeah.
後ろ宮などという姓は何の意味もない。
When I die, the name Ushiromiya will have no hold on me.
そしてそれこそが
And then,
ようや
I
く
can
私を
finally
解
be
き放って
free.
くれるのです。
金蔵は死にたくて軍隊に？
You joined the army because you wanted to die? Well, yes. That seems to be about the gist of it.
そんなのダメ。
You mustn't do that.
家族が悲しむわ。
Your family would be so sad.
家族など
Family?
私には
I don't have a family. I have a wife for the sake of public appearances and children. I've never wanted any of them. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by those selfish, greedy elders. So at least while I'm on this island, I can forget about all of that and finally find some peace. So I guess you can see why he doesn't give a fuck about any of his actual kids, because they all suck. Yeah, peace. Haven't I spent every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet?
私にあなたの苦しみはわからないけれど、私の心ない言葉が傷つけてしまったことはわかるわ。
I can't understand the pain you're going through, but I realize that my thoughtless words hurt you. Have they? I think it just reminded him of things that already hurt him, rather than hurting him specifically, but alright.
許して、金蔵。
Forgive me, Kinzo. Forgive me, Kinzo. Those words are probably what did it. All the Japanese called me Ushiromiya. It reminded me I was the property of the Ushiromiya family every time they talked to me. But she was different. She called me Kinzo, not Ushiromiya. Maybe just for the time I chat with her like this, I can forget the cursed family.
金蔵。
Kinzo? I hadn't meant to make Beatrice feel guilty, but she seemed certain her thoughtless words had hurt me.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
あなたが私を金蔵と呼んでくれるから、私はやっと自分を取り戻すことができる。
Since you always call me Kinzo, I finally feel like I'm my own man.
私はようやく本当の意味で
I
私を見
finally
てくれる人
met
に
a
出会え
person
た気がし
who
ます。
sees me for who I am.
金蔵。
All he had to do was run into literally one person who spoke English and it would have been done. But alright, alright.
あなたはとても遠い異国で出会った外国人だけれど、
You may be a foreigner I met in a distant land,
あなたの心はとても繊細で美しい。
but I can tell your heart is sensitive and beautiful. Kinzo, the Kinzo Beatrice love story. Is this what we waited 6 chapters for? 7 almost?
私たちはきっと近所に住んでいたなら、とても当たり前な友人になっ
If
て
we
いた
grew
わ。
up in the same neighborhood, I'm sure we would have become fast friends.
私も嬉しい
I'm
の
happy
よ。
too.
あなたは私の
You
こと
always
を
call me
ベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。
Beatrice!
カスティリオーニのご令嬢とは呼ばないわ。
Not daughter of the Castiglioni family? We were both in the same position. Our family must have been a rigid place as well. Though we came from different countries, we finally found something we both understood.
金蔵は親しい者にはなんて名前で？
Do you have a nickname people close to you use?
いえ、
No.
普通に金蔵と呼ばれていました。
They usually just call me Kinzo.
じゃあ、あなたは私をベアトリーチェと呼ぶのを改
Well,
め
then
る
you
べ
should
きだ
stop
わ。
calling me Beatrice.
親しい人間は私のことをビーチェと呼んでいた。
All my close friends used to call me Biche.
あなたもそうしてくれると嬉しいわ。
I'd like you to call me that too.
わかりました。
Very
これ
well.
からは親しみを込めて、ビーチェとお呼びを。
Allow me, from this point onwards, allow me to call you Biche as a sign of our friendship.
ダメダメ。
Oh, come on, come
堅
on.
苦しい言葉はダメ。
Don't be all stiff like
だ
that.
って私たちはもう友人なのだから。
Yeah, if your elders don't care about you, you could have done whatever you wanted, but he decided to die. Or at least try to get himself killed. Luckily for him, he ran into his waifu on his first deployment. We're already friends, like, alright? A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face.
あの微笑が
No
あ
matter
れ
how
から
many
何
decades.
十年を経我が記憶より薄れることはない。
That smile will never fade from my memory.
おじい様はベアトリーチェと出会うことで自分を取り戻されたのですね。
So by meeting Beatrice, you managed to regain your sense of self?
平たく言いや浮気だな。
Or as most people would put it, he cheated on his wife.
ウィルさんは今後も失言を繰り返されるならお尻をかばわれる癖をつけることをお勧めします。
If you plan on continuing to be rude, I suggest you get in the habit of covering your... An interesting contrast between Kinzo's recalling this as a blossoming mutual love and Meta Beato's assertion in 3 that Kinzo chased after her but she never assented to his affection. Yeah, Kinzo seems to be recalling this precisely and as like a love between two people, and then yeah, Beatrice was always like, Jesus Christ, this man just won't stop chasing me. Will he fuck off already? And that she was basically like imprisoned on the island. Remember, because she was like imprisoned on the island, right? She was like, I was trapped on the island and killed myself to escape because of how Kinzo was treating me. You know, I was held, because she says she was held prisoner on the island, killed herself intentionally, and then her like reincarnation accidentally died, right? That's the plot we were given, and Kinzo's like, ah yes, we were a couple in love. And you're like, okay, that's an interesting perspective. After having his butt pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony.
おじい様にとってロッケン島は
So in your eyes, grandfather,
ベアトリーチェと初めて出会われた特別な場所だったのですね。
Rokkenjima was always special because you first met Beatrice there.
うん。
Indeed.
私がこの島に来ることがなければ出会うこともなかっ
If
た。
I had never come to this island,
奇
I
跡
never would
の
have met her.
島なのだ。
Truly an island of miracles.
その潜水艦基地の名残とやらは今も
Is
残
there
ってい
anything
る
left
の
of the
か。
sub base today?
クワドリアンの近くに今も残っている。
It's still there near Kuadorian.
外界からは見えぬ入り江の影だ。
In the shadows of a cove that can't be seen from the outside.
不吉がって漁師たちも近寄らなかった島だ。
After all, fishermen never approach this supposedly ill-omened island.
私以外に知る者はもはやいるまい。
It's unlikely anyone besides me knows of its existence.
クワドリアンと屋敷を結ぶ2キロにも及ぶ地下道はその基地の名残なのか。
Is the 2-kilometer-long underground passage between Kuadorian and the mansion a remnant of the base?
そうだ。
Correct.
鍾乳洞を改造した広大な地下壕で地下を網羅し。
There was some nonsense about fortifying several locations across the island, connecting them with tunnels carved out of limestone
島
caverns.
内各地を要塞化する。などと
I made
い
use of it.
う寝言の残
I
骸だ。
built 2 mansions.
私はその地下道を生かし、島の両
One at
端に
each end of
2
the
つの
island.
屋敷を作らせたのだ。
Using the passage, he builds 2 mansions. Alright.
2つの屋敷、2つの家族、
2 mansions, 2 families.
後ろ宮家の屋敷と後ろ宮家から解放された金蔵の屋敷だったのですね。
The Shirami, a family mansion, and a mansion for the Kinzo released from the shackles of the family.
そうだ。
Right.
私には必
It was
要
something
だ
I
っ
needed.
た。後ろ宮という呪われた聖から逃れるもう
Another
一
place.
つの場所が。
Where I could escape from the cursed name of Ushiromiya.
しかし同情するよ。
Still, I do feel bad for
はる
you.
ばる日本までやってきて任務を成し遂げられなかったとは。
It must be awful to have come all this way out here and be unable to fulfill your mission.
パパの任務が何だったかよくわからないわ。
I don't know what Papa's plan was.
どこか遠くへ逃げ、大切な日までそれを隠さな
He
けれ
said
ば
we
なら
need
な
to
い
run
と言って
away
いた。
far away to hide it until the time came.
それとは
And what is it?
わからないわ。
I don't know.
それはとても大切なもので、
It was something important.
大切な日まで何年も隠しているつもりだったみたい。
Planned on hiding it for many years until the right moment.
それと一緒に隠れているつもりだ
And
ったみ
him,
たい。
hide himself along with it.
私に異国の地で長い時間を過ごすことになるかもしれないと謝っていたから。
I know, because he apologized to me for sending us to live a long time on foreign soil.
アンジェロ少尉は積み荷は特になく、
Didn't that second lieutenant of yours say you had no cargo,
君の
cargo in
父上が
particular?
輸送すべき要人だったと言
You're
っていた
transporting your father instead?
少尉はあなたたちを信用してないわ。
Lieutenant Angelo doesn't trust you or the others.
私でさえ知っていることをいくつも隠してる。
Even I know a few things he's kept hidden from
ひょ
you.
っとすると少尉はパパの目的と積み荷
Might
を知
even
っ
know what
ているの
Papa's
か。
goal was. What the cargo is.
それが何だったにせよ、それはイタリア軍の任務さ。
Whatever it is, it's a mission for the Italian
俺
military.
らには関係、むしろ同盟国なんだ。
It has nothing to do with us. After all, we're allies.
頼ってくれればいいのに。
We should be able to
金
trust
蔵
each
が
other.
良い人であることは疑わないわ。
I have no doubts you're a good person, Kinzo.
少尉にもあなたは信頼できる人間だと伝
I
えて
even
るん
told
だけれ
Angelo
ど、
you're a man we can trust, but
どうして男というのは異教ではむやみやたらと厳格になるの？
why is it that men always get so rigid and uptight when they're in a strange
普
land?
段はみんなもっと陽気な人たちばかりなのに、
Normally, they're all very bright and cheery people.
ここへ来てからみんな妙に空気が張り詰めているわ。
Ever since we got here, there's been a strange feeling of tension.
少尉は部下たち全員に常時銃を手放さないように命じてる。
Lieutenant orders his subordinates be armed at all
ま
times.
るでここが敵地かのようだわ。
It's almost as though we're in enemy territory. It was true. The Italians were clearly the opposite of relaxed. The Japanese soldiers watching this began suspecting the Italians didn't trust them at all.
軍人ならおかしいことじゃないさ。
It's normal for a
む
soldier.
しろこういう時こそ規律を引き締めて友軍に恥ずかしいところを見せたくないんじゃないか。
It's precisely the time for them to straighten up their guard so they don't embarrass themselves in front of a friendly army.
就寝時には必ず寝図板を立てるし、
They have a person stand watch every time
も
they
う
sleep.
航行できないスクラップ同然の潜水艦に今もあなたたちを近づけないように
They're still
見
keeping a
張り
lookout
を
to
立
make
て
sure
ているわ。
none of you approach the sub, even though it's nothing more than unusable scrap
私は
now.
なんだか日本人を露骨に毛嫌いしているように見えて、
Seems as though they're
気持ちが悪い。
clearly prejudiced against the Japanese, and it bothers me. Sure, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. It hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy, however. Submarines are treated as classified in all countries. Maybe it's just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason.
慣れない生活を強いられてみんな気が立ってるんだろう。
Yeah, that is fair. You wouldn't be allowed to board. Unless you were given permission, you wouldn't be allowed to board the sub anyway. They're probably uncomfortable with being made to live in a way they aren't
天
used
候
to.
と女将の都合で君たちを本土へ運ぶ船の派遣が
The
ま
boat
た
that's
遅れ
supposed
て
to take
る。
you back to the mainland's still being delayed by weather and problems up the command chain.
君たちをいつ本土へ送ってあげら
How
れ
long
る
will
や
it take before they can send you there? Oh boy. We've been told the boat was being sent for them directly from the mainland, but apparently thanks to the weather, problems up the command chain, and all the recent air raids, they had no ships they could spare on a forgotten island like this. There may have been political issues as well. After all, the Italians' homeland already surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was they'd been stuck on Rokkenjima for 2 whole weeks, and no one came to get them. Of course, we had some small boats on Rokkenjima. There was nothing physically stopping us from taking them to a nearby island. Still, Rokkenjima was technically a top-secret base, and contact with the outside world had been strictly forbidden.
仕方がないし、
Wow, there's
それも悪くないわ。
nothing that we can do about that. It's not all that bad,
だっ
really.
て船が来てしまったら金蔵とはもう会えなくなってしまうんでしょ？
If a boat came for us, I'd probably never see you again, Kinso.
お
Rue?
確かに
To me, those 2 weeks were the first I'd ever truly lived. The faint 20 years before all seemed to vanish in that sparkle of that pair of weeks. I realized she'd have to leave this place eventually, and yet this single moment felt so rich and dazzling. I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then I heard a voice calling for Beatrice in Italian.
アンジェロ少尉だよ。
D'Angelo,
君に用事みたいだ。
he wants you for something.
またお小言かしら。
Probably just called me.
日本人とあまり親しくするなと最近うるさいのよ。
These days he keeps yapping on how I shouldn't get too friendly with the Japanese soldiers. The second lieutenant approached, saluting Kinzo, and after glancing at Beatrice as though asking her to translate something, he began speaking in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious.
少尉はとても重要な話があるからあなたたちの指揮官に合わせてほしいと言ってるわ。
Lieutenant Angelo has something very important to say. He wants to speak with your commanding officer.
協力を求めたいと言っている。
He wants your help with something.
何のことかわからないわ。
I don't know what.
重要な話。
Something
わ
important.
かった。
Got it.
山本中尉を探そう。
I'll go find the lieutenant. Lieutenant Angelo had two of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize this had to be something very serious. That's it. Lift it up. The winch creaked and thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Then very slowly it was lifted out of the submarine's cargo hold.
なるほど。
Now I get
イ
it.
タリア人どもが我々を潜水艦に近づけたがらないわ
Oh, I
けだ。
get it. This is why those Italians didn't want us near their sub. The first lieutenant and the others looked up at what the winch was slowly lifting up, all of them wearing unpleasant, forced smiles.
なんてこと。これ
Unbelievable.
がパパの運んでいた積み荷だ
This
と
is
いう
what
の。
Papa brought all this way?
すごい。
Incredible.
こんなの
Never seen anything like it.
生まれて初めて見た。
Yep. It was a mountain of gold ingots. Those carefully piled bars were slowly being lifted out of the cargo hold, one group after another. The gold had been their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it into Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on their way to hide it in some remote area. Was it a sort of strategy? A conspiracy? Embezzlement, perhaps? Top secret transportation of, well, the incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicions, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed an incredible 10 tons. It was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. They strongly resisted showing this to us, however the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take in water bit by bit. Rokkenjima had been outfitted in an extremely slipshod way, so we had no means of repairing it. Also, although we could unload the sub, there was no way we would be able to lift it up again once it had filled with water and sunk to the bottom. Now that transporting the gold away had clearly become an impossible goal, they'd apparently decided on unloading it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason behind all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out.
なぜこんな大量の黄金を国外へ？
How did they take so much gold out of the country?
これだけあればイタリアの戦局を変えられたかもしれないのに。
Couldn't they have changed the course of the war with this much wealth? Not if you don't have the opportunity to spend it.
戦局を変えるのは武器よ。
Weapons change the
でも
course of
戦後
war,
は何の役にも立たない
but
わ。
after the war they aren't useful for anything.
確かにお金も戦局を変えはするでしょう。
Money can also change the course,
戦後
but
にも
it's
そ
just
の
as
価値
valuable
は
afterwards.
変わらないわ。
There's no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis will probably surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone can tell that simply by looking at the American planes flying across the sky day after day. But gold doesn't lose its value after war. Everyone stared upwards, dumbfounded. As the winch slowly lifted the dully sparkling gold. That was a very long process, but not the longest process to explain that the gold was on the boat. You could have probably guessed that immediately when Beatrice got off and you're like, oh, the submarine has the gold.
注意。
Lieutenant Yamamoto.
イタリア人たちはこの黄金のことを本土へ報告しないことを望んでいます。
The Italians don't want us to tell the mainland about the gold.
我が国に横領されたくないからであろうな。
So they don't want our country to snatch it away from them.
彼は何と？
What do you say?
日本が黄金を横領するのを恐れているから報告されたくないのだろうと言っている。
You're saying your group probably doesn't want to report it because you fear Japan will steal it away from you. Yep.
少尉はむしろイタリア本国に知られることを恐れてい
He's
る。
actually more afraid of Italy itself finding out.
私たちにとって今の祖国は連合国の傀儡政権。
To us, our homeland's current government is a mere puppet set up by the Allied
彼らに
forces.
知られれば黄金は返還することになる。
If they find out, the gold's gonna get returned to
し
them.
かしそれは私たちの敵に黄金を渡すようなもの。
That would be the same as handing the gold over to our enemies. We'd come all this way to make sure the gold didn't fall into enemy hands. They needed to hide it from the puppet government until their homeland could be restored.
後宮、
Ushimura,
イタリア人たちに提案せよ。
make a proposal to the
我
Italians.
々は協力を申し出たいとな。
Tell them we wish to offer our assistance.
協力とは
What sort of assistance?
イタリア人たちの言い分はこうであろう。
Let's see if I get this straight.
彼らはその黄金を祖国に知られることなく隠したいわけだ。
They want the gold kept secret so their homeland doesn't find out
し
about
か
it.
し、この島から運び出そうとすれば、輸送船を手配せねばならなくなる。
At least a transport ship if they plan to carry it off the island.
そうすれば本土に知られ、さらにはイタリア本国にも知られることとなる。
If they try that, though, the mainland will hear about it, which means the Italian government will too.
そうなります。
Right.
つまりあの黄金はもうロッケン島からは運び出せない。
In other words, there's no longer any way to take that gold off of Rokkenjima. Their mission must have been to hide the gold in secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration, and later on several plausible rumors would circulate about how Nazi Germany also moved much of its secret wealth to certain hidden areas in South America just prior to its collapse. It was a natural conclusion to reach. The submarine was their only method of transporting the gold in secrecy, and it's become completely useless. They can't fully stop the water from seeping in. It'll probably sink completely before much longer. There's no way for them to transport it in secrecy. In other words, their mission ended in failure here in the Far East. Just how is Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing we assist them?
このロッケン島基地は誰も知らぬ秘密基地だ。
Rokkenjima is top secret. No one knows about it.
近
Okay.
隣の島民たちはこの島を不吉な無人島と信じて近寄りもしない。
The islanders in the surrounding area think the island's ill-omened and deserted, so they never
言
come near
って
it.
いる意味がわかるか、後宮。
Catch my drift, Ushirimiya?
彼は何と？
What did he say?
前にも話した通り、このロッケン島基地は
As
誰に
we
も
told
知
you
られていな
earlier,
い。
no one knows about the
見
base.
ての通り、戦略価値は何もなく、
It's of no
上
use
層部にはすでに
strategically.
忘れられて
The
いる。
higher-ups have already forgotten
注
about
意
it.
は、この島に黄金を隠してはどうかと
It sounds like the
提案したい
lieutenant's
みたいだ。
suggesting you hide the gold on this island. Beatrice quickly translated this and told Lieutenant Angelo. He began discussing something rapidly with his subordinates. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been their ally, but they probably didn't want to leave the gold for reconstructing their motherland in Asian hands. Still, it's hard to imagine any other option for them.
激しく議論しているわ。
The fierce debate.
他に手はないという者もいるし、それでも祖国に忠誠を尽くすべきだという者もいる。
Some say there's no other option. Others say we should remain loyal to our homeland no matter the cost. Yeah, you're in a tough position because you can't really commission a boat because otherwise someone will know about it. So you may have to hide it here anyway. I think that'd be leaning towards hiding it here because there's not really another option unless you want to smuggle it off piece by piece. But even then, they can't even get a boat for themselves off the island, let alone a boat with themselves in a secret like compartment with gold for gold or a hidden bar of gold or something like that.
少尉は板挟みになってるわ。
Lieutenant Angelo is stuck between a rock and a hard place. The final order given to them by their fallen homeland was to hide the gold. However, by now there's no way for that order to be carried out successfully. If the mainland or their own homeland found out, the gold would be confiscated by the wrong people, or from their point of view. If they really wanted to carry out their homeland's orders faithfully, Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable, though he couldn't understand their words. He seemed to realize how divided they were.
我々が協力すれば、あの
We
黄
help out.
金を厳重に隠すことが
We'll
で
be
き
able to
る。
hide the gold in total
幸い
secrecy.
なことに、廃棄された地下壕が長々とこの島の地下を横断している。
Fortunately, there's an abandoned tunnel that stretches all the way across this island.
この島の地下に黄金を隠して埋めれば、
He's saying if you hide the gold underground and bury it on the island, no one will be able to find it.
現実的な申し出だと議論してるわ。
Our side says, it sounds like a realistic proposal.
でも 日本人の手を借りるのに
There seems to
抵
be
抗を
some
感じて
resistance
るみたい。
to accepting Japanese help.
議論が難航しているようです。
Seems they're having difficulty coming to a decision.
議論の余地などあるのか、イタリア人。
They don't have a choice. You really have a choice, Italians?
我々の協力なくば、あの黄金は隠せんぞ。
You don't think you can hide that gold without our help, kid, dude?
まさかいつまでも波打ち際に積み上げておくわけにもいくまい。
I doubt you want to leave it lying around on the beach for much longer.
アンジェロ少尉は黄金のことを知る人間を最小で抑えたいみたい。
Angelo wants to minimize the number of people who know about the gold.
日本人は信用できないけど、山本中尉の申し出が今は最
He
善と
doesn't
見
trust
て
the
るみたい
Japanese, but it looks like he's decided Lieutenant Yamamoto's plan is the best possible option.
でも、いぶかしがってるわ。
Seems suspicious.
何を
About what?
10トンの黄金を隠すという労力の提供と守秘義務を彼らが本当に無償で提供してくれるの
He's
か。
wondering whether they really intend to move a full 10 tons of gold and swear themselves to secrecy without any sort of compensation.
五分と五分だ。
50%.
注意、それはまさか。
Sir, you can't be.
あの黄金の半分を我々によこせ。
Hand over half the gold to us.
それを手間賃に、残りの半分を厳重に隠してやろう。
With that as our wages, we'll hide the other half nice and safe for them.
半分をよこせと言ってる。
He's telling you to give us half of it. The instant Beatrice translated the sentence, Lieutenant Angelo slammed his hands on the desk and stood up. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true to his boast of once being a thug who everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had
本
previously.
来なら断りようのない話だ。
After all, they don't really have the option of refusing.
8割を要求してもおかしくない。
We could demand 80% if we wanted.
それを敬意を表して五分と五分にしようと提案しているのだ。
Lowered it to 50% as a sign of good faith.
これは我々だけに優位な話ではない。
Of course, we aren't the only ones with
イ
leverage
タリア
here.
人たちが外部にこのことを漏らせば、すべての黄金は日本かイタリアに接収されるだろう。
If the Italians decide to leak this to the outside, all the gold will probably be taken by Japan or
我
Italy.
々には1円たりとも転
We
がり
won't get
込ん
a
でこない。
single yen out of it.
我々は全員が共犯でなくてはならない。
It only works if we're both partners in crime here.
全員に着服の共犯になれと言ってる。
He says we should all be partners in the crime of
注意は
embezzlement.
すでに軍人としてでなく個人として話をしている。
By now, he's moved on to speaking as an individual, not as a soldier.
なんてこと。
I don't believe it.
黄金に目がくらんだのね。
Gold's blinded him? Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really did look as though he'd been blinded by greed, just as
あのまま
Beatrice
山
said.
積みにしていれば、やがて本土から来る迎えの連中の目に嫌おなく入るだろう。
I mean, if they leave it just piled up where it is, you can be sure it'll be noticed when the boat comes for them from the
そう
mainland.
なれば、ここにいる誰も
That
が
happens.
得
No
を
one
しない
profits.
我々の申し出を受けて、早急に黄金を
They
隠
should
すべき
accept our proposal. Hide the gold as soon as possible.
アンジェロ少尉は日本政府やイタリア政府にはどうしても知られたくないみたい。
Like Angelo's dead set on the Japanese and Italian governments not finding out about this
自分が与えられた任務に
He
最
wants
後
to
ま
carry
で
out his
責任を
duty
持ちたいみたいよ。
until the end. Okay.
つまりどういう
What does that mean?
何割かを口止め料として与えてでも島内に地中深く埋めることを望んでるわ。
He wants it buried deep in the island, even if he has to pay a percentage to buy our
もちろ
silence?
ん下士官たちには異論もあるみたい。
Of course, some of his subordinates object strongly.
5割は問題外だと憤慨してるわ。
They say 50% is out of the question.
後ろ宮、イ
Ushirmio.
タリア人たちの
How
感
they
触
doing?
はどうだ。
彼らも黄金がこれ以上の人目につくことを
They
望んで
also
いない
don't
よ
want
う
more
です
eyes on the gold.
しかし
They
取り分
object to the
に異論
portions.
があるようです。
少尉は1割ならば検討できると言ってるわ。
Lieutenant says they'll consider 10%.
無論山本中尉がそれで納得しないだ
He
ろうと
also
も言っ
says
てる
he's
けど。
certain Yamamoto won't accept that.
後ろ宮、イタリア人の返事はいかに。
What's their answer?
1割なら検討すると。
They say they'll consider 10%. This time it was Yamamoto who slammed his hands down on the desk. Italians didn't flinch either. An incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression still looked smug and in control. He's probably confident that he now had the initiative.
1割
10%?
1割か
That's a modest
それ
proposal.
いいだろうなら1割を譲ってやろう
Okay, I'll give up 10%.
四分六だ
40-60.
これ以上は譲らんと伝えろ
Tell them it won't go lower than that. 40 for Japanese, 60 Italians. The lieutenant was talking tough, but in truth these negotiations weren't being made on an equal footing. If the Italians had just wanted the gold for themselves, there wouldn't have been much of a problem. But what if they were true patriots and decided to return the gold for the purpose of reconstruction even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland? If so, they'd probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy, and eventually the government would petition the Allied nations for the retrieval of their gold. It probably wouldn't all make it back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and rebuild their battered towns. If that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends would only be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was greedily planning to make his own treasure island, though he and his subordinates could have an enormous fortune all to themselves. If he wanted to succeed, the Italians would have to keep the presence of the gold quiet.
しかし疑問だ。
One thing I
ア
don't
ンジェロ
get.
少尉が誰にも黄金を渡したくないなら、
If Angelo doesn't want to let anyone have the gold, he could have just let
沈
the
めれば
sub
よかったはず。
sink.
どうして荷上げを？
Why have it unloaded?
考えたくはないけれど、
I'd rather not think about it.
命令が遂行不能になった時点で少尉はこの黄金を横領することを考え始めたの
Lieutenant
か。
Angelo might have started planning to embezzle the gold as soon as he realized their mission would be impossible to complete.
彼は今下士官たちに
Right now
軍
he's
人
asking
と
his
しての意
subordinates for their
見
opinions.
祖国に家族が待つ一個人としての意見を聞きたいと言っている
Both
わ。
as soldiers and as individuals with families waiting for them back
堅
home.
物の下士官たちが
The straight-laced soldiers are furious. The discussion between the Italians was becoming fierce and emotional. Though their homeland fell, they had come all this way in accordance with its orders. They'd probably even been given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seems they couldn't just agree to the foreigners' proposal to embezzle and split the gold. Angelo looked like he was doing all he could to calm the unexpectedly fervent rage of his subordinates. Looks like the gold is blinding them too. Everyone's mixing up their true feelings with how they want to be seen, and they can't make up their minds.
奴らの返答はいかに
How's the answer coming?
後ろ宮
Ushimia! Alright,
ビーチェ
teacher.
ン、周囲が返事を求めてる。
Yamamoto is asking for an answer.
考える時間が
They're
欲しいと
saying they
言っ
want
てるわ。
time to think.
私はあなたと話せたから気が紛れてよかったけれど、他の人たちはそうじゃないの。
I had you to talk to, but I was able to distract myself from our current situation, but that's not true for the rest of them.
とても長い後悔の果てに大勢の仲間を失って
They lost a lot of
極限状態で
friends,
ここにいるわ。
comrades at the end of a very long journey. They're here, and it's in a tight spot.
唯一の心の拠り所だった任務も
They even lost their mission, the one
もはや
thing
喪失してる。
they could depend on to guide them.
どうすればいいのか
They aren't sure what to do.
彼らも分かって
注意。
Sir,
彼らは時間が欲しいと言って
they
いま
say
す。
they'd like some time.
いいとも大いに議論したらいい
Let them talk it over all they
し
want.
かし時間はないぞ
They better not take too long. Though.
隠すとなったら時間と手間がかかる
If we want to hide the gold, it'll take time and effort.
明日の正午までに結論しろ
Make a decision before noon
以
tomorrow.
上だイタリア人ども
Italians.
回答期限は
He gives
明
you
日
until
の
noon
正午だ
tomorrow.
そうだ。周囲ね。まるで脅
He's
迫だ。
practically threatening you.
少尉は全員の意見を聞くと言ってるわ。
Lieutenant says last for everyone's thoughts on the matter.
感触は
Where do you think they'll go?
多分難航するわ。
It'll be tough going,
下
but
士官や他の仲間たちは多分反対するわ。
seems the lieutenant's willing to consider splitting it, and his subordinates and the others probably oppose that.
この極東までの航海で大切な仲間を
All
大
of
勢
them,
失って
they've lost close friends on their voyage to the Far East.
彼らは堅くなに
Okay.
祖国への
They're
忠誠を
firm in their
貫
desire
き
to
た
do
かった
their duty for our homeland. So presumably there's all 10 tons there, so it doesn't leave. And but how do we get here? How do we arrive at this day where all 10 tons are there? I can understand that no one comes back for their gold. So do they all end up killing each other? Desire for the gold, they all end up killing each other, and it's just Ushirimiya and Beato left? I wonder how they reached this point. It's like, is Genji here yet? He's not here yet. Is Genji one of these people? Maybe? I suppose we could find out. We haven't been introduced to anyone else, so it's unlikely that Genji is here. Alright. Will they refuse the lieutenant's proposal?
断ってもどうせ黄金は誰かの手に渡るわ。
The gold will just fall into someone else's
何
hands.
も残らないならせめてインゴットの一本ずつでも密かに持ち帰ろうという少尉の言い分に
If nothing is going to be
同
left
調者も
anyway.
出そうだけど
The lieutenant suggests they each sneak at least one and get back with them, and some of the others seem to agree, but
こういう時の男って勢いだけが迷走するわ。
men always get carried away at times like this.
私も見当がつかない。
Even I can't guess what they'll do.
イタリア人たちの胸中は複雑でしょうね。
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration, Lion. I imagine the Italians had some complicated feelings about all this.
彼らにとって降伏後のイタリアは敵国同然だろう。
In their eyes, the Italy that surrendered was probably a little better than an enemy
黄金
country.
をそのイタリアに返還するのは彼らの長い旅路をすべて否定するの
Yeah,
と
letting the gold go back there would make the journey meaningless.
しかし
But
黄金を着服して山分けすることも彼らの旅路の否定になります。
embezzling and divvying up the gold also makes their voyage meaningless.
彼らが義理立てすべき祖国はすでに滅んでいる。
The country they felt obligated to serve has already
その
fallen.
時点で彼らの旅路の意味など
That alone destroyed the significance of that journey.
気の毒な話だ。
Not a happy story.
どうせ意味のないことなら
Well, it's bound to be
インゴッ
meaningless.
トの一本でもありつけた方がまだマシだと。
Wouldn't keeping a hold of a few ingots be better than nothing?
損得感情で言えばそうなる。
If you want to calculate straight up profit and loss, maybe.
そうならねえのが男って
Men aren't
もん
like
だな。
that. What's truest to their mission? Making sure no one else knows about it and leaving it hidden. The Italians were gathered in a cramped room arguing fiercely.
反対です。
I don't like it.
死んだ戦友たちのためにも断固軍人魂を貫くべきです。
Let's remain true to our soldier spirit till the end for the sake of our comrades.
貫くとはどういうことか。
And how do you define
この
remaining
島に
true?
黄金を隠せということか。
By hiding gold on this
東
island?
洋
Here?
人たちの申し出を受けるということか。
Accepting the proposal of those Asians?
東洋人たちは信用できませ
We
ん。
can't trust them.
特にあの山本という男、
Especially that Yamamoto man. Yeah, that guy's pretty sketch.
断じて油断できません。
We mustn't let our guards down.
黄金を荷上げして日本人たちに見られたのはやはり失敗でした。
Unloading the gold and letting the Japanese see was a huge mistake.
艦と共に沈めるべきでした。
Should have let it sink with the
日
sub.
本人の基地で沈めてどうする。
Alright, great idea. Let's just sink it right inside a Japanese base.
やがていつかは引き上げられる。
It would have been pulled up eventually.
隠したことにはならない。
I wouldn't hide
いずれ
anything.
にせよ、この島から黄金を誰にも知られずに運び出す方法はない。
There's no way to get all the gold off this island without anyone knowing.
洋上で名誉ある自鎮を選んでいたらこんなことには。
We'd just taken the honorable path and scuttled this up. None of this would have happened.
艦のダメージが致命的だったことがあの時点で分かっていたら、
The sub would be broken beyond
どうして
repair.
あの時少佐は日本軍に救援要請を。
Why'd the commander contact the Japanese military
日
asking for
本
help?
軍にこの黄金のことを知られたら少佐はどう任務を遂行す
How
る
does
つ
he
もりだっ
plan
たん
to
だ。
carry out the mission if they found about the gold?
少佐が救援要請を出した時点で
Our
我々の
mission
任
was a
務はも
failure
う
from the minute he
失
asked for
敗
their
してい
help.
たんだ。諸君にも祖国で待つ家族がいるはずだ。
All of us have families waiting for us back
そし
home.
て極東の島国までよく航海に耐えた。
We've all done more than our part, voyaging all the way to this island in the Far East.
それに対するこれは正当な報酬なのだという考え方もある。
Fair and just payment for our services?
死んだ親友たちが浮かばれてこんな目に。
Well, they're not going anywhere quickly.
少尉、
Lieutenant
日本
Angela.
人が友好的でない場合、我々は最終的解決手段を辞さない覚悟が必要です。
The Japanese prove to be less than amicable. We need to be prepared to take extreme measures.
伍長、
What do you mean by
最終的
extreme
解
measures,
決手
Corporal?
段とは何か。
Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room.
日本人たちはたるみ切っています。
The Japanese here are
実戦
pushovers.
経験もない腰抜けばかりです。
They're cowards with no battle
我々
experience.
は精兵です。
And we're the elite.
すでに基地内の間取りのほぼ全てと日本人の人数、配置状況は把握しています。
We know the layout of almost the entire base, along with the number of Japanese troops and how they're arranged.
少尉の命令があれば短時間で制圧できるでしょう。
If Angelo gives the order, we should be able to subdue them quite
戦闘員
quickly.
と思わしきは山本を含めて数人程度。
Only a few of them, Yamamoto included, look like fighters.
残りは軍属の作業員風情です。
The rest are just laborers attached to the
上
military.
辺の人数は日本人が上ですが、実質兵力ではこちらが優位です。
They may have the advantage of numbers, but we have the greater military
日本
force.
人を殺せば迎えの船が来た時それをどう説明する
And if we kill the Japanese, what exactly do we say when the boat comes to pick
ご
us
ま
up?
かしようがないぞ
You think that's gonna work?
死体さえ見つからなければどうとでもごまかせます。
There should be plenty of ways to work it as long as the corpses aren't
少
found.
尉、
Lieutenant?
この基地を制圧するのは容易で
It's
す。
easy to take this base.
山本以下主要な兵士数人を殺してみせれば、あっさりと作業員たちは降伏するで
If
し
we
ょう。
kill Yamamoto and the few strong fighters, the laborers will probably surrender easily.
彼らに黄金を運ばせ、地中に埋めましょ
Let's have them carry the
う。
golden
もち
bird.
ろん、彼らの口は永遠に塞ぎますが、
Of course, we'll have to silence them
日本
afterwards,
人たちを皆殺しにするとい
suggesting
う
we
ことか
massacre all of them.
殺しましょう。
Let's
全
do
員
it!
殺せば、黄金のことは誰にも知られずに済む
If
の
we
です
kill。them all, no one knows about the gold. At that moment, the supposedly locked door opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in.
グラナダ
Granada! As the yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield. They all dropped to the floor. However, in the cramped room, it wouldn't do them much good. The Italians were prepared for death.
不発不発
Dud! It's a dud! Fortunately, the shoddy grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open and 3 Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in.
クソったれ不
Damn
発
it, it's a
だ
dud!
イタリア人ども殺せ殺せ
Kill
殺
the
せ
Italians! Kill the
応
Italians!
戦しろ。各地自由発砲。
Return fire! Fire at will! In this small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood with casualties on both sides. The 3 who jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over moaning and thrashing.
ジーノジーノ
Gino!
そう肺をやられてる助からない
Thank God it's low. We can't
幸
save.
運な犠牲だ
We should consider ourselves
あの手
lucky.
榴弾が不発でなかったら全員死んでる
If that grenade went off, we'd all be dead. The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged the negotiations wouldn't go his way and decided to make the first move. Or maybe he was planning this from the beginning and put them in a position where they'd be gathered in one place to discuss his offer. Rokkenjima was their island. If they killed the Italians, then not half, but all the gold goes to the Japanese. There's a chance the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. They heard gunfire down the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being
少尉
attacked.
ご命令を。
Lieutenant, what are your orders?
やむを得ん
We have no
日
choice.
本人は殺せ
Kill the Japanese.
注意。あいつら敵ます。
These guys are good.
この連中ただの船乗りじゃね
These Italians aren't your ordinary sailors.
なるほど黄金の番人を任されるだけの兵士ということか
They needed men good enough to guard their gold after.
人数はこちらが上だ
We have numbers.
焦らず囲んで殺せイタリア人狩
Keep
り
your
だ
cool. Surround them. Kill them. Let's hunt some Italians. As soon as I heard the sound of repeated gunfire, I knew. I knew something which had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded finally burst. The eyes of our soldiers looking at the gold hadn't been normal. Yes, they had been entranced by demons. The Italians had been pushed to their limits by the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped over being trapped in a distant land where you can't understand the language or the writing? Thinking I had to do something, I ran toward the sound of gunfire, and looking back on it, it was a really stupid thing to do. The sound meant there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other, and yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards the sound as though I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive that was in the heat of battle.
平岡兵装
Hiraoka? Warrant Officer Hiraoka was laying face down, his body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear he'd somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. No, he was still twitching. He might not be dead yet. But on this island without a doctor... No, even if we had one, who could possibly save a man who'd been shot this many times in the chest? When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw 2 more blood-stained Japanese corpses.
死ん
I fell backwards pathetically on my butt with my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I'd ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war. Even though millions were dying both east and west, it is the first time I met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Rejoice, Kinzo! Isn't this the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell aloud? Come for me, O magnificent death. No? He's not gonna do it? Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. He dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same.
Tajima-kun,
what happened? Run away. I'll all be killed. Someone yelled in Italian. At the same time, Tajima-kun let out a scream. He grabbed onto me as he fell to the floor. A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. Tajima-kun. And he's gone. Rip Tajima-kun. We knew him for 1 second. As he spat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died. But the shock of seeing someone die right in front of me didn't freeze my heart. At a fundamental level, all living things are unconcerned with the deaths of others. The one thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. It was the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing that froze my heart. Tajima-kun's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood splattered. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian trying to finish him off even though he'd stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, Kinzo, you finally get what you wanted all this time. I don't even have to tell him he got what he wanted now. The Italian hadn't fired to finish off Tajima. He'd been aiming at the man Tajima had fallen on, me, Ushiromiya Kinzo. I pushed his corpse aside, scrambled against the floor, and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor hard enough to tear off the ring fingernail on my left hand. Ouch. When faced with death, humans can truly resist with all they've got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful and hot, but it didn't matter at all. I heard the yelling in Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept running and running as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? I don't want to die. Why? Didn't I want to die so badly? But now I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me, Beatrice did. I can only be free when I talk with her. No. By talking with her, I can finally came alive for the first time. I was born. I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, Kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might as well be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, snot, and saliva. When I stumbled into something and fell, I was able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfight was still going on, and it spread throughout the entire base. Beatrice, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all the Italians to steal the gold. Beatrice won't be an exception.
Beatrice.
Beatrice. I lived for the first time after meeting you. I was born, so if you die, I'll die again. I could feel every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushiromiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified. I might really be shot if I went back. I didn't want to die anymore. To truly die, I was able to overcome my fear. Beatrice! Beatrice! And she's gonna be like, Rubens? What's going on? What's all this?
君は知らなくていい。
There's no need for you
そこにじっと隠れて同胞が呼びかけるまで出てくるんじゃない。
Don't come out until one of your fellow countrymen calls for you.
イタリア人の声が聞こえた。
I heard an Italian
そこ
voice.
にいるぞ。
He's over here.
そ誰東洋人め。
Ambulance. Rubens stood with Beatrice behind his back, neatly shooting the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta 1934, M1934. All right. However, one of the 8mm bullets from their Type 94s went straight into Rubens' chest. All three of the shooters were struck in the chest and fell down in a heap. Rip Rubens. ruins.
地上へ逃げろ
Go to the surface.
森の中へ
Hide in the forest. I'm Aren't we chatty? The person next to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of the 3 guns had just sounded. Adding on Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising he'd noticed the encounter. If it was going to come to this anyway, we should have taken this woman as a hostage in the first place. Damn annoying, that's what they are. The detail, the high tension scene with specific details like bullet calibers. Yeah, that is kind of funny. It didn't seem necessary. It seemed like one of those strange things where they're just like, I need to add detail to this scene to make it seem like it has more depth. And maybe the detail wasn't quite added in the right way because you don't really care too much. And they haven't generally specified what weapons people are actually being killed with half the time. Especially in Umineko, where the method of death is like never mentioned in like any way. You have to kind of just guess how people are killed. It's like, ah yes, that's probably a gun. What gun? Who the fuck knows? They aren't telling us because we don't even know what gun shot them, where they were shot from, or who killed them. And now they're like, ah yes, the 8mm or the Type 45, and you're like, okay. That's oddly specific. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used the moment to snatch up Ruben's gun. Okay, that didn't work out. Oh, look at you, reaching to pick up a gun without missing a beat, and evidently not going fast enough. Italian women sure are scary. Damn, both of you screwed up. He spat this last part at the 2 dying men who lay boning at his feet. However, what happened to them wasn't particularly surprising. It wasn't the first time it happened either. In this tiny, cramped tunnel, nearly everyone met head-on. When both sides shot recklessly in such a situation, the result's 2 corpses. Whoever sensed another person pulled the trigger quickest won. That's the only way to survive this battle without a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians had killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on oncoming allies. Weren't there only like 10 Italians? In the midst of all this were several Japanese men who stumbled into the fight, wondering what was going on. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The entire base was wrapped up in this slaughter. There was a fierce gun battle taking place on the docks. A massacre resembling a hunt taking place inside the base. Most of the non-combatants assigned to the base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began dropping bit by bit. Blood-stained corpses scattered everywhere. At first it was probably a proper gunfight. However, as their minds began to grow weary and numb, it devolved into the more basic cause of wars throughout humanity, the desire to kill foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard something you didn't understand, they pulled the trigger, and by that point the screams of foreigners sounded no different from that of man-shaped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand, pleading in another language, though it long ago turned into a mere massacre. I mean, that's kind of how it started, right? They threw grenades into the room, planning on killing all the Italians except for the 1 guard? Because it's like 1 guard, maybe 2, and then the rest are all in 1 room? 10 people, right? As the number of dead surpassed the amount of living, silence began returning to the base, and just when it felt as though everyone had died, you could hear the desolate sound of the wind blowing through the caves. There'd be a scream, the sound of a gun, and you'd remember that the massacre wasn't yet over. It happened over and over again. Eventually, true silence fell, marking the pitiful end for those led astray by gold. The leader of the Italians, Angelo, managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpses of friend and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows elsewhere, so he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for remaining enemies. There was no sign or trace of a living person. Maybe all the people in the base had died? The Japanese struck first, but at that time they were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men, so perhaps we should be grateful for this day. Even if the boat had come to pick us up, there would have been no honor left for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. I noticed the sound of shuffling feet coming from around the corner and strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and dragging their feet? Noticing them before they notice me greatly helps my chances. At this stage, there's no point taking prisoners. We gotta dispose of all the Japanese. I'll dash around the corner quickly, check to see who they are, and if it's Japanese, I'll shoot. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably won't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps had come close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian. Run.
貴様を探していたぞ、ア
I'm
ンジェ
looking
ロ
for
少
you,
尉。
Lieutenant Angelo.
これで全員だな。
That makes all of
俺
you.
はしっかり貴様らの死体を数えて回ってたんだからな。
I've been counting Italian corpses, you see?
しっかりして
Angelo.
アンジェロ少尉
Okay. Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor. Then his knees. And the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping, so Yamato made the shot. He managed to hit, even with a short-barreled handgun in one hand and a woman as a hostage in the other.
それにしても我がロッケン島守備隊の情けないことよ。
Really, though, our Rokkenjima garrison was
まさ
pathetic.
か私以外は全員
Am I the only one who's
死んだの
not
だ。
dead?
やれやれクズどもめ。
Trash, all of them.
女を盾に取らなきゃ戦えない人手なし
Can't you fight without using a woman as a shield, you prick?
離して
Go.
静かにし
Aren't you
ろ。
supposed to be a witch? This isn't very witch-like, losing to one person by themselves.
イ
Quiet.
タリア女は実に騒がしい。
Noisy, these Italian
お
girls.
となしくしてれば命までは取らんという。
If you'd be cooperative, I'd at least spare your life. It was an obvious lie. Even he wore a bitter smile about it. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died along with the garrison in a gunfight. That was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell, so he couldn't afford to have Italian survivors. By this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he should be able to grab as many as he could carry. Even that would be worth a lot of money. An absolutely huge amount. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard.
誰か助けて誰か
Someone help someone!
こんなクソ甘。
Bitch? You mean Biche? She almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. He fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach, pointing his gun at her.
じゃじゃ馬を飼いならす趣味はないので
I
な。
don't make a hobby of taming tomboys.
貴様は死ねえ。
注意、彼女は無関係だ。
Lieutenant Yamamoto, she had nothing to do with this. Let go of her. Kinzu had jumped out of the shadows. He was holding a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses.
後ろ宮か。
Ushiromiya,
おう生きておったか。
you're alive!
彼女を離せ。苦しがってる。
Let go, you're hurting her.
貴様であろう。
It was you, wasn't it?
イタリア人どもに攻撃があることを
You
密
tipped the
告
Italians
した
off?
何の話だ。
What are you talking about? Yamamoto didn't know the grenade had been a dud. He was sure the surprise attack would work, but it hadn't, so he assumed Kinzo must have tipped them off.
貴様のせいで奇襲が失敗してこのざまだ。
It's your fault the surprise attack failed and we're stuck like
も
this.
う裏切り者め。
Turncoat. Traitor to your
貴
country.
様がこのイタリア女を通じて内通していたことはお見通しよ。
I know you've been working with them through this
あ
woman.
なたが黄金に目がくらんだから、この事態を招いたのではないの
You
か。
see, you caused all these kids are blinded by gold.
逃げて金
Run, Kinzo.
蔵この男は命乞いしてる人も撃ったわ
This man's shot people begging for their
あな
lives.
たも撃た
He'll
れ
shoot you too.
喋るなイタリア女。
Don't talk Italian.
もう一度口を聞いたら容赦なく撃つぞ。
If you open your mouth again, I won't hesitate to shoot. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut.
よせ、やめろ。
Stop it, stop it.
彼女は何の関係もない。
She has nothing to do with this.
ああ
Oh?
銃を上官に向けるとはどういう
Are you pointing a gun at a superior officer?
頭を冷やせ愚か
Stop
者
and think a bit, fool.
私とお前で口裏を合わせればあの黄金の山は私たちだけのものではないか
If we agree to keep the same story, we can have that pile of gold all to ourselves, okay?
私一人では少々をくすねるくらいしかできんがお前と二人でなら
I could only grab a couple on my own. But if we work together, we'll be able to sneak off with even more. I don't mean this as your superior. Let's split it equally between us as men.
五分五分に分けようと言ってあなたは彼らの寝首をかこうとしたのではないのか
The last time you offered to split the gold 50-50, you tried to split their throats.
後ろ宮
Shiromiya.
どうやら貴様は黄金より鉛の方がお好みらしいな
Looks like you prefer lead to gold. Without hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. It grazed Kinzo's right ear. If Yamamoto's aim had been just a bit better, the bullet would have slammed into his face. Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out, planting her right foot in his crotch. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face, and he stomped on her chest. Beatrice! Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping she could withstand the coming pain. No one wants to watch the moment they get shot. Blammo. It's Yamamoto. Oh no. Ripperoni Yamamoto. It wasn't like we didn't see this coming.
あんたがあんたの都合で大勢の命を奪ったように
A blood splash poured out of Yamamoto's chest, just as you took so many lives for your own personal reasons.
私も
I'll take your life.
あんたの命を奪う
For mine. Could Yamamoto hear Kinzo's words till the end? In his last moments he seemed to grin, and then slowly, he fell backwards with a spurt of blood. Also, those shots have to be fucking deafening if you're in a tunnel. Holy shit. No one's wearing ear protection? Oh my god. Can you imagine having a shootout in a tunnel? In an actual fucking tunnel with no ear protection? That would suck so much. Kinzo, are you okay? Beatrice tried to stand up, but then doubled over and started coughing.
Beatrice!
Are you hurt? Her ribs are hurting. He's stomping them pretty hard. Will you be okay? I hope they aren't broken. Italian women don't break so easily. But thanks. I owe you my life. I owe you my life. Hadn't come, it would have ended here. Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. If we didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for the ship that was coming, I made the decision to carry her away from the island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base is lying there dead after trying to kill like a bunch of people for the gold. Yeah. The next island over, Nijima, is close. A small boat should be more than enough to get us there. I need to take you to a hospital. The wound may be more serious than you realize. That's interesting. I never knew there was a hospital on this island. There isn't. A boat will get us to the next island over. We'll get you to a hospital. And as for me, unless I cleverly cover up what happened on this island, I might end up getting court-martialed just for being here. I have a request. Don't take me to a hospital. Why?
病院へ行って大使館に連絡が行けば私はやがて本国へ送還されるわ
If we go back to a hospital and the embassy is contacted, I'll eventually be sent back to Italy.
そしてきっとあれこれと尋問を受けるんだわ。
If that happens, I'll be interrogated about all kinds of things.
私はママを見殺しにした奴らを
I won't acknowledge
自
the
分の
bastards
祖
who
国
let
とは
Mama
認
die.
めないの。
Remember in episode 4 when Kinzo said he had to make the choice before in Kill 1 to save the other two test? I guess that's his version of the test. Where it's the gold, his superior officer, and Beatrice? That seems like an easy question, though. That seems like an easy question, though. You just say you made her surrender, or that the two of you were outside talking when a fucking bloodbath occurred. And you panicked and shot the last guy or some shit. Like you just lie and say that it was like the Italian Angela or something, and you're like, you pulled the gun, shot him because he tried to kill you or some shit. Like you got lucky. I feel like he didn't have to really sacrifice too much of anything.
もう私の帰る
There's
べき
no
祖
homeland
国
for
は
me to
ないの。
return to now.
ここが私の終点。
This is the end for me.
だからもう私はどこへも行きたくな
There's
いの。
nowhere. There's nowhere I want to go
私
anymore.
に優しくしてくれた
Lieutenant Angela,
アンジェロ少尉もルーベンスも
Rubens,
みんな
everyone who was so kind to me,
死んでしまった。
all dead.
だから君までここで死ぬ
And
と。
because of that, you want to die here too?
イタリア女はヤワじゃないんだろ。
I thought you said Italian women weren't
生
weak.
きるんだ。
Live.
ねえ金蔵、
Kinzo?
生きるってどういう意味？
What does it mean to
あ
live?
なたが教えてくれたはずよ。
You're the one who taught me,
生
aren't
きるっ
you?
てのはただ息をすることじ
I
ゃな
think
い
it's
わ。
more than just breathing.
私はイタリアへ帰りたくないの。
I don't want to go back to Italy.
ビーチェ。
Beach.
あなたは私と出会うまで死んでいたと言ってくれたわ。
You said you were dead until you met
で
me.
も
It's the same for me.
それは私潜水艦の中で
I died in the submarine.
祖国も滅びママ
My
も死ん
homeland
だ。
fell. Mama
パパも
died.
ね。
Papa died.
私はこんな船沈んでしまえと
I
願
prayed
った
our
わ。
sub would just sink to the bottom of the ocean.
だから
When we reached this
こ
place,
こにたどり着いた時
I was disappointed we'd survive.
その矢先よ。
And after that,
少尉が英語がわかる者はいるかと騒ぎ出したの。
Angelo started asking whether anyone could speak English, and when Kinzo met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. When Beatrice met Kinzo, she also forgot about dying.
私は
Now that I've lost my homeland, my family, and my
祖
friends,
国も
I only wish
あなたにさらってほしいと願うの。
is you kidnap me and take me away with you.
ピーチェ。
でもそれは叶えられない望みだとも
I
分か
know
って
that's a
る。
wish that couldn't possibly come true.
ならばせめて
At the very least,
迎えの船が来るまでの数日間を
I want to be with you until the boat comes for
胸
us.
の痛みなんて気にしない。
I don't care about the pain of
だ
my
っ
chest.
て迎えの船に連れ去られたら
When the boat comes and takes me away,
私
I'll
はも
die.
う死んでしまうのだから。
Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest.
お願い
Please,
金蔵、
Kinzo,
迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいから
just for the few days until the boat comes,
私をさらって。
kidnap me.
その願いは
Well, that's a wish
叶えられない。
I can't grant. Looking apologetic, Kinzo lifted Beato up and gently sat her in the boat.
育児なし。
Yeah.
やっぱり日本の男は軟弱だわ。
The Japanese men are weak after all.
そうだな。
You're right.
私は育児なしだ。
I am a
だか
coward.
ら君の願いは片
I
方
can
し
only,
か叶えら
I
れ
can
な
only
い。
grant half your wish.
片方とは
With a clunk, he placed it, wrapped in a jacket, in the boat. What do you mean?
迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいから。
Part of it until the boat comes for you.
の方は叶えら
That's
れ
the
ない
part
と
I
いうこと
can't
さ。
grant.
どういう意味？
What do you mean?
君をさらう。そ
Kidnapping
っちを
you.
叶えることにした。
That part I can do. Kinzo?
金蔵、
There has to be a doctor on Nijima. I'm wearing a Navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be of the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I have right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. A witch from a distant country took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. A woman came to me with the gold and revived me with her magic.
君は魔女だな。
You're a witch.
黄金の魔女だ。
The golden witch.
ええ、黄金の魔女よ。
Yes, the golden witch.
みんなと同じレシピで作ってるのに、私だけがパスタから消し炭を生み出す錬金術が使えるの。
Even though I use the same recipe as everyone else, only my alchemy can turn pasta into a smoking black heap. That's not true, I can do that too.
あなたと同じく私も、あなたがいてくれる限り、生きることを許される屍。
Although I'm pretty sure the recipe I had did not call for spending 3 hours watching anime as part of the process for boiling pasta. That might have had something to do with that. I didn't quite follow the recipe exactly, but I thought it was pretty close. Just like you, I'm nothing but a corpse allowed to live as long as you're with me.
あなたがいなくなったら、私はすぐにでも死んでしまう。
I'll die straight away.
死なせない。
I won't let you die.
本当に？
Really?
絶対に。
No matter what.
だって
No matter what, you're not dying.
責任。
Take responsibility, okay?
だってあなたは私をさらったんだから。
You're the one kidnapping me. See.
金蔵さんがそこまで話しましたか。
So Kinza told you that much. Is Nanjo the doctor they found, and that's why Nanjo's loyal? Because Nanjo got paid like a fuck ton of money? Like basically the entirety of a gold bar, and that's how the gold bar gets out? That'd be curious.
では、まさかあなたなのですか？
It was you?
おじい様がベアトリーチェを連れて行った新島の医者というのは。
You're the Nijima doctor who grandfather took Beatrice to see? That much was obvious.
驚くに値しね
Why so shocked?
え。新島の医者って時点でピンとくる。
It should have leapt to the mind since the words Nijima doctor. Yeah, pretty much.
突然海軍の兵隊さんが外国人の女性を連れて現れたのです。
All of a sudden, a soldier of the Navy appeared with a foreign woman.
驚きましたとも。
Of course I'm astounded.
しかもその上、軍機なので秘密で治療しろというのです。
Then he told me to treat her wounds confidentially since their presence was a military secret.
それがおじい様との初対面だったのですか？
The first time you met grandfather?
そうです。
Of course,
それ
yes.
が金蔵さんと初めての対面で
That's when
し
we
た。
first met.
黄金で言いなりになった欲深な医者ってのもお
So
前の
you're
こと
the
なんだ。
greedy doctor who followed orders for the sake of gold?
これは手厳しい
That's
ですね。
harsh.
突然外国人の女性患者を連れ込み、軍機だから秘密にせよと言い、
He brought a foreign woman in as a patient, explained to me it was a military
治療
secret.
代は必ず持ってくるから担保にと言って黄金のインゴットを差し出す相手ですぞ。
He promised he'd pay the medical fees later and handed me a gold ingot as collateral.
厄介事はごめんでした。
I didn't want to get involved with any funny
しぶ
business.
しぶとですとも。
I was reluctant, to say the least.
確かにそれもそうですね。
To your
で
point.
も南條先生はベアトリーチェをかくまってくれ
In
たん
the
で
end,
す
you
ね。
did conceal Beatrice, didn't you?
金蔵さんほどではありませんが、私にも英語の心得がありました。
I'm not as skilled as Kinzo, but I do have some familiarity with English.
二人の会話を漏れ聞き、二人が決して厄介な何者かでないと確信したからです。
I managed to overhear part of their conversation, and that was enough to convince me they weren't troublesome people.
もちろん、インゴットに目がくらまなかったといえば、
Of course, if I
嘘
were
が
to
過
say
ぎ
that
ます
ingot
わ
didn't
な。
tempt me, that would be a
私
lie.
も今よりは若かったものですから。
Be a lot of money, I
その
can
後
see it.
彼女は
What happened next?
しばらくの療養の後、後宮家の使いの方が来て、小田原に移すとおっしゃいましてな。
I treated her for some time before a messenger from the Ashiromiya family came and said she'd be moved to
引
Odawara.
き取られていきました。
They took her away.
おじい様が自分で迎えに行ったわけではないのですか？
Grandfather didn't come get her himself?
金蔵がどう六軒島の事件を言い訳したにせよ、
Regardless of how Kinzu explains away the incident on
しばら
Rokkenjima,
くの間は自由には動けなかっただろう
he
よ。
wouldn't be able to move out freely for some time afterwards.
ですな。
Precisely.
軍をごまかすのが金蔵さんの人生で一番の大勝負だったと言っており
Kinzo-san
まし
said
たが。
deceiving the military was the greatest challenge of his life.
ベアトリーチェは小田原に行って、
So Beatrice went to Odawara, and then what?
使われていない別荘の一つにかくまったと聞いています。
I heard she hid in one of their unused villas.
当時の金蔵さんにはもう家族がおられましたからな。
After all, Kinzo already had a family at the
そこ
time.
はうまくやられたのでしょうな。
Must have been tricky to manage.
クワドリアン以前から二重生活はお手の物だったというわけだ。
So a double life was business as usual for Kinzo even before Kuwadorian.
さ、
何してるんですか？
What do you
お
do?
尻におできでも？
Is your butt issue?
ち、
それから
Later
ベ
on,
アトリーチェはおじい様の保護で別荘でいつまでも。
Beatrice and grandfather continued their happy relationship in the villa from then on?
平穏につつましやかに暮らしたと聞きます。
I heard it was a modest, peaceful
それ
life.
からしばらく経ってからでした。
Several years later, they had a child.
その娘こそクワドリアンのベアトリーチェ
Kuwadorian's
か。
Beatrice was born.
金蔵さんの前では非常に振る舞われていたそうで
Didn't
す
go
が、
well.
お気の毒なことです。
It was a truly sad tale.
まさか亡くなったんですか？
You don't mean she died?
驚くな。
Don't be
金
surprised.
蔵はその娘を生まれ変わりと信じたんだぞ。
Kinzo believed his daughter was Beatrice
心
reborn.
をないがしろにするんじゃね
You can't
え。
neglect the
推
heart.
理
It's
は可能だ。
possible to reason it out.
そうですね。失礼。
My apologies.
私は金蔵さんが彼女と過ごされた小田原の数年間を知りま
I
せん。
don't know how many years Kinzo spent with her in
し
Odawara.
かしその後の今日までの金蔵さんを見れば、
Judging by the Kinzo-san we grew to know afterwards,
ほんの数年間であっても
I can tell
彼
how
がいか
deeply
に
he
彼
loved
女を
her,
深く愛したか
even if they
お
only had
伺
a
い
few
知る
years
ことが
together.
できる。
そうですね。
See?
そしてその娘のためにクワドリアンを作ったという
Then he
わ
made
け。
Kuwadorian for his daughter.
金蔵さんは潜水艦の黄金を元手に巧みに立ち回り、たちまちのうちに財産を築き上げていきました。
He cleverly made use of the submarine's gold to build a fortune in a
ま
flash.
た持ち前の英語力を生かし GHQ に強いコネクションを作ってみる
He
み
made
るう
use of
ちに
his
大富豪と
considerable
なられた
English
ので
skills
す
to make connections with the GHQ, becoming immensely wealthy in a short period of time.
この辺はリオンさんに説
There's no
明
need
す
to
る必
explain this
要
part
は
to
あ
you,
りますまい。
Leon-san.
ええ。
Yes.
その莫大な財産で六軒島を買い取り
Used
屋
as
敷
well.
を建てます。
Bought Rokkenjima and built the
小田
mansion.
原の親族たちは無人島を丸ごと買い取ったおじい様を酔狂だと笑ったそうです。
The remaining relatives in Odawara scoffed at grandfather, thinking him crazy to buy an entire deserted island.
10トンの黄金がポケットに収まる大きさだったなら金蔵も島を買わなかったろ
If you
うよ。
could carry 10 tons of gold in your pocket, Kinzo wouldn't have bought Rokkenjima. He hid the gold somewhere in Rokkenjima, built a fortune with the ingots he took out of it, and bought the whole treasure island.
ですな。
Exactly.
そして後宮家の黄金伝説が始まるの
Started
です。
the legend of the Ashiromiya gold.
インゴットには片翼のワシが刻印されていたと聞くが。
But what about the mark of the one-winged eagle supposedly pressed into the ingots? That's a mystery we're gonna have to save for next time.